Okay. Huh. Okay. So here we are. Did everybody take their medicine? Does everybody got something to drink? I do not have coffee, but I have soda. So that'll count for now. I have my weed. I have my cigarettes. I have my soda. I have my true crime. Now I need my fellow weird ass black sheep to join me. And then we'll be ready to party. So let's wait for people to get in, huh? I could share this a couple places, I suppose. Let's see. Mhm. And, New satanic SpaceX logo. Man, people need to get over life. Some things just are not what you think they are. Or they might be, but the people using it have no fucking idea of what it's even being used for. So we are going to go ahead and start the show. This is, I don't know, I didn't see it, but his wife did something, and
Hi, I have an
I don't even
emergency.
know.
There's a lady on the side of the road. She's chained up. She needs an ambulance.
Do you know where you are?
No.
Are you chained up?
Yes.
And then I saw the small revolver.
Take a deep breath, sweetie. Who chained you up? Do you know the person or were you kidnapped?
When a young mother goes missing while out for a run, the news of her kidnapping makes national headlines. After 22 days of searching with no
Oh
sign
my
of her anywhere,
fucking
her
God.
loved ones were beginning to lose
I
hope.
had no
That
idea it
is,
was about the. Okay. This whole thing. Okay. I didn't know this was going to be about her. I don't know too much about this case, but I know this bitch is psycho. And I don't believe anybody died. I think pretty much the whole thing is pretend. I don't know if anybody knows anything about this case or not. I remember hearing about it and I know she's still alive and wants her kids. Other than that, I don't really know.
until she miraculously reappeared, starved and beaten, but alive. However, the relief was short-lived. Her kidnapping was only the tip of the iceberg. It would take over 4 years to unravel the unbelievable and carefully organized lies. Nothing was at all as it seemed to be. Not much is conclusively known about the events of Sherry's morning on November 2nd, 2016, except for a few things. The 34-year-old mother woke up early inside her Redding, California home. Her husband Keith left for work around 7 o'clock. Sherry got her 2 young kids ready, fed them breakfast, and dropped them off at Pandora's daycare like she did every day. Seeing as her husband was at work and her kids were at school, these are the only few aspects of Sherry's morning that could be verified. But it's what happened next that would turn the lives of Sherry and her family upside down and leave the nation stunned. Supposedly, after doing some chores around the house, Sherry changed into some athletic wear and set out for a run. She stepped outside her front door, did some light stretching, then skipped off the porch and began jogging down the road. When Keith returned home from work around 5 p.m., his wife's car was in the driveway. He expected to walk in and find Sherry and the kids running around just like any other day. He stepped inside, and there was silence. This was extremely strange. Sherry was a stay-at-home mom, and she'd usually pick their children up from daycare by the time he got home from work. Still, Keith sat down, turned the TV on, and tried to relax. Sherry had probably taken the kids for a walk, nothing too out of the ordinary. He sent his wife a text inquiring about her location, but got no reply. He called his mother, but she hadn't heard from Sherry either. He then used the Find My iPhone app on his phone in an attempt to locate Sherry's phone, and was relieved when it pinged at the nearby intersection of Sunrise Drive and Old Oregon Trail. However, his relief was short-lived when it appeared that nothing had been taken from the house to carry their 2 small children in. He called the children's daycare at 5:45 and learned they had never been picked up. As worry set in, he drove to find Sherry at the intersection where her phone had pinged. However, she was nowhere to be found. He pinged Sherry's phone a second time and located it nearby in the grass, abandoned. Not long after that, he made this 911 call.
Hello, can I help you?
So I just got home from work, and my wife wasn't there, which is unusual, and my kids should have been there by now from like daycare. I found her phone, and it's got like hair ripped out of it, like in the headphones. So I'm like totally freaking out, thinking like somebody like
What's her?
grabbed her.
Is her vehicle there? Does she not have a vehicle?
She has a vehicle at the house.
Okay, the vehicle is at the house.
She's running.
How? Okay.
Yes, I'm in it right now driving, and I took a picture of her phone on the ground before I picked it up.
When's the last time you heard from her?
She sent me at 10:47 asking me if I was coming home from lunch from work. Something happened to her is the way I'm looking at it.
I understand you're freaking out a little bit. We wanna make sure we get your kids. Make sure they're okay.
Do you want me to wait right here for somebody, or?
If you want to head back to your residence so they can contact you there, and in case she does return.
Okay.
Okay.
Police soon arrived to talk to Keith, but according to him, he knew nothing about what could have happened to his wife. The immediate area was looked over, and after coming up with nothing, they organized a formal search. In the following days and weeks, the search area would grow, and so would the number of people searching. Neighbors, friends, family, and volunteers from all over California would join what ended up growing into a widespread manhunt for Sherry. All the while, Keith was at the forefront of the campaign to find his wife. While it's true that people go missing every day whose faces aren't plastered on the news, the rally to bring Sherry home garnered more media attention than anyone could have predicted. Before long, Sherry's picture was underneath headlines across the country. The story quickly caught fire, and Keith, as well as the police, were getting calls from media outlets left and right for intel on the case. But truthfully, there weren't many updates to give them. Investigators weren't able to lift anything useful from Sherry's cell phone. With that being the only piece of evidence they had, detectives found themselves with no real direction to go in. They quickly turned their attention to Sherry's husband to see what he knew about his wife's disappearance. What detectives would end up uncovering through their conversation with Keith were unsettling details pertaining to an unhealthy side of his and Sherry's relationship, or what some might call motive. What you're about to see is newly released footage of one of the police's earliest conversations with Keith, which took place shortly after Sherry went missing. The footage has been analyzed by a qualified team, including a licensed attorney, a licensed clinical psychologist, a former licensed professional counselor, and a licensed professional counselor.
But like a normal route for her run, would she run on Old Oregon Trail to Paracas back?
She would normally go to the mailboxes and back. Now, she's been running more and more. She wanted to get ready for the Casa run. We're all gonna go to it's like the Casa where everybody jumps up superheroes.
Okay.
You know. Now, when I used to run, I'm not gonna mailbox and bag us nothing. You know. So I would make a big loop and go down Old Oregon Trail and then come back. Now,
Through Paracas?
I'd go Paracas and I'd come home sunrise.
Okay.
So there's a possibility that she was like, hey, I'm going to step up my, running. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to walk the Old Oregon, and then I'm going to run again or something.
Yeah.
And I keep going back to something like that because the way the phone is, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen, I know I showed you a picture. It's weird to me, and I've got all my ideas, but my latest idea is I don't think it happened there. I think I think where the T is, where you can go Paracast or Sunrise, I think it happened somewhere in there because there's no houses except for that, crack house. So I think two guys or something in a car, they drive, the phone gets cell phone range again. It doesn't have cell phone range right there. It makes a sound, or something, and they go, oh, and they grab it, and they give it a little chuck so it bounces, and then it kind of stays, but it's still pretty intact. So that's why I don't get that part. There's a few random stories I've been getting. Obviously, you have tips. I was hoping maybe you could see if you did get some good tips. We're allowed to talk about that. But one of the girls was like, oh, I saw her run by at 11:30, and I heard a scream over my radio at 2, and the cops never talked to me. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? They came to your house at like 1 a.m. because it was that weird house with the shady people. So I'm like, so then everybody wants to talk to all these people now, and I feel like there should be a dog going to the house knock just to see if it smells anything around their house, because I still feel it's somebody. I don't think that lives near me, but I think it's an acquaintance of somebody down my street. Is my theory. Because some guy driving on the lower end, like, hey, hot blonde, pull in, let me throw it in. I mean, that seems totally not logical, but not ruling it out.
And another part of our day yesterday was to see if this was voluntary or involuntary, like missing. Mm-hmm. And we ran that stuff out, and we're still back to where we are. Yeah. We know where she's at. We know where her phone is. Mm-hmm. We have a rough time estimate of that. As far as they hear the scream over the radio, we have talked to her. Mm-hmm. Just like talking, it's hard to verify certain things. The 11 o'clock fits lots of other stories and people talking to us.
I'm saying 11 to 12 she left, and I think 11:10 she started running. Based on text message, based on the guys that were cutting that tree right there that saw her.
He's clearly been brainstorming a lot concerning his wife's disappearance, as would any spouse who's desperate to find their partner. However, someone who wants to keep suspicion away from them could also benefit from planting theories and steering the investigation in a particular direction. In a missing persons case, the victim's partner is very often one of the first and most
I hate this
investigated
for
of the
this poor
suspects,
guy.
and Keith is likely aware of the detective's suspicions. The spouse is often looked at closely when their partner disappears, so the detective is likely suspicious of Keith right now.
I hate this right now for this poor guy. You can look at him and tell that he's nerdy. He's not killing nobody. No. Not even if you were to do this is a face of a killer. It's like, no, that guy really, no.
The only other thing I was thinking is also maybe she got tired and sat down, and that's why the phone was like that. I was like, that's a weird. You saw it.
It's not
the hell would you sit there? Yeah. And she wouldn't let me get her butt dirty. I know her. And then why would she leave the phone? And if some guy pulled her, she'd run. I mean, she would scream. So I don't know. Or there would have been a kick mark. I mean, there's nothing. Yep. But I saw it anyway.
Keith not only recognizes but points out holes in the abduction theory. This is an indicator that he's being truthful with detectives. Someone who's guilty in this situation would have more to gain by pushing the idea that she was taken, rather than tearing it down.
Now, one thing I heard, and obviously I have a different stand, and you guys have to go with facts, but I heard Senko, and he's like, at this point, it's not an abduction. Me, I'm like, yeah, it is. Why are you saying it is? Is that because you have no evidence, or is that because you're like, we're still checking out, because my family member, he's like, don't think you're not still being looked at. And I was like, they can look at me all they want. I'd be pissed if they were wasting resources on me. I understand that they need to look at me, but I was like, if there was a team of 5 guys looking into me, and this whole time they should know, okay, it wasn't him. We need to go here. I'm gonna be like, I'm kidding you. So sorry, I'm getting upset, but I wanted to bring it to your attention.
So I don't know why that was said,
okay.
But that fine line, the big scheme of things, per paper, per what we're putting out there, she's a missing person at risk with suspicious circumstances.
Yeah, this dude just seems too happy to be hiding a devil, but then again, maybe he is hiding a devil, but Just wait. I didn't know that this was going to be this case. I almost want to change it to a different case that I kind of don't know. Because if I tell you, it'll ruin the whole thing.
That's the legal mumbo jumbo.
Okay.
That's not to believe that we're not investigating this like it's an abduction.
Okay.
The legal term is missing person at risk under suspicious circumstances.
All right.
That's why that was said.
All right.
So it's not suspicious circumstances for us, for paper, whatever, like for that side of stuff, is the abduction, or what we believe possibly is an abduction. So we're running that down as an abduction at this point until evidence tends to show us
One or the other.
Most innocent individuals will be cooperative with an investigation, but they may express anger or dismay at being wrongfully accused. Given that this is a missing persons case, there's an even greater sense of urgency to find Sherry before it's too late. It's justified that
wait.
Keith would be frustrated by the idea of police possibly wasting time looking into him.
In the meantime, I think you said you had questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, based on that, we're looking at you. Yes, we are looking at you.
Awesome.
I told you that from the very
That's
beginning.
true,
We're
Michael.
not
Anyone
wasting
can
resources on it,
kill.
but to get to the
You have to cancel.
But
the-
I would
fully
never
get to the next
put
step,
this
not
guy
saying that
guilty
there's not
just
detectives on that
based on
next
his
step. To
baby.
fully get to that next step, we have to look at you. Because if we don't, it's irresponsible.
When the detective definitively informs Keith that he's a suspect, Keith leans forward and puts his hands on the table, a gesture that indicates that he's being open and has nothing to hide. Though his mannerism suggests that he'd have no reason to be involved, the troubling undertones of their relationship might suggest otherwise.
What was going on in your guys' relationship in February of this year?
I would have no idea. I mean, I'm assuming it would be related to maybe a text message, and then we go back and forth and we say mean things when we get in arguments.
Seeing as the detective is asking about something that occurred 9 months prior, it's not too concerning that Keith can't seem to remember. But his response does provide us with some key information concerning the extent of their relationship troubles. If someone rarely gets into fights with their spouse, it's more likely that they'd remember a fight from months ago. It would be such an unusual event that it would stand out in their memory. However, if a couple's relationship dynamic involves frequent screaming matches, it would be more difficult to remember each one because it's such a regular occurrence that they start to blend together.
You concentrated more like recently everything's fine. Recently things have been fine.
Definitely.
And which it all appears that way.
Oh yeah. I understand you need to go back because you're asking. I mean, you guys are good and you guys have your arguments. Sherry is definitely very. She wants the. I don't know. Try to figure out how to do this here. We get in arguments and she blows up. Not through Facebook or anything, but she'll definitely make a big scene and get very mad. And she's kind of a slam door type of a person. Me, I'm like, don't, you're gonna break. I am more of, I want to leave and go and leave the situation like cool, but then I get in trouble for that because that makes her upset. So then I don't leave now. I sit there and I go, calm down, calm down, calm down. Then she'll like want to, verbally kind of attack, if you will. And then she'll say some mean things. And then after so much, I'll say some mean things. Then we are upset. And then within like a day, hey, that was pretty wild last night, right? And then we're all good because we have kids. I don't like when she yells and gets mad in front of the kids. It's like, I remember when I was a kid, my parents used to fight. I hated that. So it could have been something where we thought about, yes, but you can't do that around the kids. So I am willing, if you want me to, I'll go and read, or you can tell me what the exact fight was, and I'll tell you everything about it.
What Keith is describing could qualify as an emotionally abusive relationship, with Sherry being the abuser and himself being the victim. Her alleged explosive temper could be seen as a manipulation tactic to get Keith to do what she wants. However,
I could
without
see
Sherry here to
that.
give her side, it's difficult to know what's actually true. When a partner is
No,
abusive,
you can look
especially
at
in
her
the
and
form
tell.
of
Bitch
emotional
is a
abuse,
secret
it's not
psycho.
uncommon for them to try to twist the situation to make the victim seem somehow responsible for the
Secret
abuse.
psycho.
One way they do this is to gaslight the victim and make them feel that their feelings are invalid. This can cause the victim to feel crazy and question their own feelings, and sometimes even leads to extreme cases of the victim acting out. In that case, it makes it even easier for the abuser to flip the script, since the victim outwardly appears as the unstable one in the relationship, when really they're being
Oh, yeah,
led
that
to that
happens to
behavior
me
by
a
the
lot.
abuser's manipulation. Regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always like, motherfuckers are fucking with me, man. If nobody was fucking with me, I wouldn't be freaking out. Yes. Yep.
Of who's fueling the fire in their relationship, the conditions Keith is describing are very unhealthy.
Are these loud arguments?
No, for her, she will get loud. And I was telling you guys a story got kind of cut off. We have had the sheriff's out at her house one time. It's probably not on record because we weren't fighting. We were watching a movie, The Book of Eli, and some lady called saying she heard glass breaking and a woman screaming. And they came out and we're like, what are you doing here? And it ended up being kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're not going to report this. This is stupid. But we've never had, like a domestic ever in the history. It's been not reported or even think. We would.
So
We have a funny, weird relationship where we joke about that stuff because we were at Halloween at our friend's house and we were playing this Ninja Fruit Slice with the Wii, and I went to slice the thing and I hit her like right in the eye, and she had like a black eye, and we were at her friend's house and we're, oh my god, it was like Halloween 2011 or 12. So then, because we don't live that lifestyle, like, oh, what happened? And I'd be like, she didn't put the dishes away. Like, I'm making jokes like that. So everybody knows us as being like, jokers or something like that, but we would never in the history.
So, back in 2011-ish, is that when that incident happened?
With the Wii?
Yeah.
Give me a second. We didn't have kids yet, so I'm trying to remember.
Good.
Here.
Pre.
Yep. And if people would just stop
Kids.
fucking with
Pre-kids
me,
situation happened.
Pre-kids, and
the
I can't tell
same
you the
exact
people
thing, Michael.
of the house that I was at.
Because there's
Same
noise.
exact thing.
I've heard about this incident,
That's funny.
but it wasn't the Wii game. I heard the Wii game was like the cover for it.
Those are the people that were actually there.
Okay. And that works. And I talked to one of them.
Oh, okay.
The fact that Keith is making light of the incident, given the circumstances, will likely stand out to the detective as concerning behavior. It's no laughing matter that someone he knows is claiming that he's covering up abusive behavior. It's possible that he's using humor as a coping mechanism to ease his feelings of discomfort. It's also notable that Keith chooses this moment to remove his jacket. When someone encounters something they deem a threat, such as the abuse accusation, they may begin to feel hot and exhibit physical symptoms such as clamminess or sweating. An innocent person might demand to know who would make such an accusation and insist that the accuser is lying. Keith, however, doesn't seem interested in where the accusation is coming from, which is a possible red flag. But he may not appear concerned because he believes the references he provided can easily confirm his story. As well, it's possible he finds it funny because he's confident in what actually happened. So he thinks it's stupid that someone lied about it.
I'm trying not to. In this moment, I don't want to talk bad about her, but you're kind of. I'm not saying you're forcing me, but I want to tell you everything because I don't.
We're not talking bad about her.
She will, kind of come at me. I'm a hug and hold until you calm down kind of a guy.
So there are people who say that they've heard arguments coming from the house.
Oh.
Not saying on a regular basis, just that they've heard actual arguments.
100. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, she gets very vocal, loud. I'm like, come in the house. Don't be yelling because I hate more than anything bringing attention to stuff like that. And she's very loud when she gets upset.
Okay.
And I'm more of like, calm down, just calm down, calm down.
The other thing we heard was the voicemail from Richard.
Oh yeah, that was horrible. I just got on my phone.
Yeah, because he called you individually and then her individually.
Wait.
There's.
Are you talking about
There's a message
voice,
on
the horrible one from him?
Yeah.
Richard is Sherry's father. Sherry is said to have had a poor relationship with her parents most of her life, especially with her mother, Loretta. Following Keith's interrogation, we'll dive deeper into her childhood by hearing from people who witnessed it, a few lifelong friends of hers.
When Sherry was growing up, her parents did horrible things. When they were kids, they would give them presents on Christmas and let them open them all and then take them all back and say that's what your punishment is for not mowing the lawn. Like, they're horrible when it comes to that. But for whatever reason, even all they put them through, she feels the need to keep them in their life. And I'm like, it's your call on it. That's fine. I'll back you up.
Police records dating back to 2000 and 2003 suggest a rocky relationship between Sherry and her family. Alleged altercations include claims that Sherry kicked in a door at the Grafe home, that she made an unauthorized withdrawal from her parents' bank account. Though these events haven't officially been confirmed to have taken place, the allegations are troublesome.
The reason this thing started is it was about a birthday, our daughter's 2-year birthday, and she rented out like this big hall in Shasta Lake City, and we made a carnival, like, and we had all these board games, and we had lots of kids. And the parent, they said, "Oh, we can't make it. We have a boat drag race." And then they got mad at her for scheduling it. Then the dad called, and he's like, "How dare you F this, you blah, blah, blah." I mean, you heard it. It was horrible. So she got that, sent it to me. So that's how that voicemail got sent. So then she sent some emails. I'm assuming you saw some of those. All right, we got some emails from them that were horrible. And I'm like, are you kidding me? These are just ridiculous. We had, in the very beginning, which I don't like talking about, we had a little blip where she went to like some big like conference thing in some other state on AT&T. And there was like a text message, and met this cute guy, and whatever. And I came across this. What the fuck is this? We got in a big fight. I was extremely hurt. We didn't even have kids yet. I was like, I don't want to get divorced. You know, she didn't do anything with the guy, but I was like, this is, how the f are you doing that? You know, I was like super scared and afraid. And I was like, we're going to get a post-nuptial. So I went out and I got one. She's like, I'll sign whatever. Like, I didn't mean to do this, whatever.
Notice that Keith describes the text message situation as a little blip. However, the resulting explosive argument clearly suggests otherwise. Keith might have a general tendency of minimizing the issues in his and Sherry's marriage. On the other hand, he might be downplaying.
He already said, he already said he didn't want to say anything bad about her. He wanted to do it without saying anything bad about her, which is extremely nice when we find out what happens at the end of this shit. Hey, cousin Little Nolly, how are you? We're watching this thing about this lady. They think her husband killed her or made her disappear is the better way to put it. And we're going to find out. See, I think this guy looks way too nice to be that kind of person. I just feel like he's talking way too nice to be that kind of a person. And he's already said he didn't want to talk bad about her.
Playing their problems to dissuade the detective from looking at him as a suspect in Sherry's disappearance or a perpetrator of domestic abuse. He also seems to gloss over how exactly he stumbled across the text messages in Sherry's phone. The fact that Keith read her texts in the first place indicates that there was already some level of distrust in their relationship before that incident.
But we,
look at her.
We both, we never get divorced. We'll never get divorced. Like, we're locked tight. We know that we go through these, and a lot of people are getting divorced. We're not that couple.
We're looking for any shred of anything.
Coincidentally, a series of text messages between Sherry and a man by the name of Donovan Misk found their way into the investigation shortly after her disappearance.
Ooh.
It seems the two were communicating in the days leading up to Sherry's departure, and even trying to coordinate a time to meet up. In the end, they were unable to establish a feasible plan. Donovan was soon cleared of any involvement as it was verified by his cell phone records that he'd never made his way to the Reading area as they discussed.
The only thing I can think of would be her laptop.
But if there is a computer there, and we're trying to find the skeleton life. Everybody's got a personal life. A private life, public life, and skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a possibility to get that stuff today?
All of my lives are boring,
Yeah,
even my
I really been using
skeleton
the
life.
iPad, so I don't really want to give that up.
Although it may seem odd for Keith to not want to hand over evidence that could potentially assist police to find Sherry, this doesn't necessarily point to his involvement in his wife's disappearance. However, it does indicate that there might be something on the iPad that he'd rather the police not see. Regardless of the reasoning, an attorney will almost always advise you not to willingly hand over your phone or other devices unless the police have a warrant. Either way, judging by the exasperated face rub, Keith is stressed by the detective's request, something the officer will surely note.
What's their goal?
We have people looking. We have people looking for surveillance. We have people contacting the people who've already been caught. So like the tips, like people are going and actively working. So we are a fishnet out there. Everybody's doing something. So we don't.
No, it's fine. I won't have part of me wanting to shut I-5 down for anybody coming and going.
Everybody's got a piece of this in our agency.
Go over there, I'll get that, and I'll just call you later.
Yep.
Keith wasn't the only one who could offer a look inside Sherry's life. Police also had several interesting conversations with people close to Sherry. Everyone had something fascinating to say, though some of their claims would sharply contrast Keith's description of his marriage.
Did she talk to you about the ins and outs of her life and relationship with Keith?
She was never real specific with a lot of things. I mean, I definitely knew that there have been some problems going on for quite a while with them. It was very obvious in her behavior.
How could you describe that to me?
She would flake, which is something she would never do. You know, you'd make plans with her and she wouldn't show up, or she would give you some lame excuse as to why she wasn't there later.
Has she ever made claims of abuse or anything like that on Keith's behalf to you?
No.
I hear she gets explosive when she's angry.
Yes, I knew her as a kid. We always called her crazy. You know, she was crazy. She was wild. She was out of control. I'm not surprised, and I kind of feel like I'm the only person who feels like she ran away, but I really do. Has anyone told you that she has a history of running away? Do you guys know that this isn't really out of character for her? You know, she may have had a getaway plan that maybe she never thought of using, and then the day she went missing, I don't know if they got in a fight, I don't know, whatever. Maybe it was just she had a mental breakdown and said, I can't do this anymore, I'm done, and left. And my concern now is this has gotten so big, so fast.
That's my guess.
And now she's decided, I had a mental breakdown, I made a mistake, I want to come home. She can't.
Sherry's friend is very insightful here with her response. She is correct. If Sherry left on her own, then it would be very difficult for her to suddenly come back home without facing judgment and repercussions now, as police had become involved. However, there is a key difference between her having run away as a child or teen and what might have happened in this situation. If Sherry staged false evidence to make it look like she was abducted, she might have felt she couldn't allow it to appear that she left willingly, as that could make her look like a bad parent. If she cared more about what everyone would think of her versus how her family would feel about her being kidnapped, this could suggest she has narcissistic tendencies.
So when Sherry and I were growing up, 16 years old, she ran away from home, went to San Ramon area, Walnut Creek. Well, we got back in touch with each other, and she ended up moving down to Orange County and with a boyfriend. She's had lots of boyfriends, lots of men in her life. I do believe when she married Keith, her husband now, she had actually been active with as many men as she was years old.
Okay.
So,
Oh my judgy.
he's aware of that. He knows that.
Judgy.
Was it a problem for him, or?
It was a problem for him, yes. You know, and then he came over and talked to me and said that he had found out she was talking to an ex-boyfriend via email.
I hope when I pass away that somebody would tell the truth about me like this woman's doing to this lady right here. Like, just fucking tell the truth. Don't tell people. She was so loving and great. No, be like, man, she was mostly an asshole most of the time. And this probably, I don't know. She probably had it coming. Something like that.
And, that really upset him, and he just didn't know, why she was doing this, the type of situation. So there is a history of that.
What about like the last year between her and Keith?
They have seemingly been fairly happy. I mean, that she, has expressed to me in the past. I can't tell you if it was for sure in the last year she said it, but if I ever try and leave him, he'll kill me.
Sherry's alleged promiscuity prior to marriage, along with instances of her talking to other men while she was married, may be attention-seeking behaviors caused by a personality disorder. An individual with borderline personality disorder may have a pattern of unstable relationships and impulsivity. They may also demonstrate intense or inappropriate displays of anger. To our knowledge, Sherry was not diagnosed with this disorder.
She even went down to, he will chop me up into little pieces and bury me in the backyard. That is verbatim out of her mouth.
And one of just our questions around the office is why
I'm sorry, but that sounds made up. He'll cut me up into little pieces. Look, you know damn well if he said that to her, she would be saying that to everybody. Because if Dustin said that to me, I'd be saying it to everybody in front of him. I don't know. If she is that out of control and people are like, she's so out of control, there ain't no way in hell she would not have said that to everybody. I'm sorry, but there's no way she would have not said that to everybody. Or even said it in front of him to people.
she's a stay-at-home mom and takes the kids to daycare?
She really wanted the kids to be prepared for preschool, for real preschool and kindergarten. And her belief system was that going to a daycare, which, Pandora, that's it. She teaches them numbers and how to count and the ABCs, and they actually do work through play. And so she really, when she was just starting to research it, she's like, well, why not start now? Why not start early? So that was how she explained it to me. And that's why I don't think this is her doing. I really strongly feel like she would not leave those babies.
So I'm trying to figure out who Sherry is as a person.
She was definitely original. She was marched to the beat of her own drum. She never let society dictate. I know when her and Keith first started dating, there was a weekend I had been up.
She sounds like a version of me. Like a better version of me. And I have mania. Maybe hypomania. Something like that. I'm very manic. And I'm like that. Well, I have a lot of these qualities. But I am bombastic. I am out of control. I am awkward socially. And if Dustin ever told me he would cut me up in little pieces, I would tell everyone, and I would tell everyone in front of him. I've done it every single time he's ever said or done anything. I tell everybody. I kicked him one time, and I told everybody because I didn't want to kick him no more. I kicked him one time, never done it again. Nope. And I told everybody. And I'm willing to bet if he said that to her, she would have told everyone.
Reading.
And that man doesn't even look like the kind of man who could even vomit those words.
Visiting, and Sherry and I were out doing something, and she was telling me that he.
And Michael, you know me in real life. You and Ollie know me in real life. I'm not very much different online than I am in person. And so I'm sure, like, I would tell everyone.
Keith had made her, I guess he'd found some of her old journals, and I guess Keith made her throw away all of her old journals because they had mentioned ex-boyfriends. I guess he'd gotten pretty upset over this issue.
Do you think that Sherry has the ability just to walk away?
No,
Like from her
there's no
family?
way.
Okay.
She was so family orientated.
So the tip is that there's a lot of verbal arguments and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and they get very loud. Sometimes it's in the middle of the day. Sometimes it's late at night and very verbal, and you can hear glass breaking and all sorts of shit.
If you grew up out there, and I heard Keith grew up out there, did you know him while you guys growing up?
He grew up across the street from us. He's never really been the kind of guy that had a lot of friends because he's just not a nice guy. He puts on a really good show, but he's an ass.
Police looked into leads like these, all the while expanding their search throughout Shasta County, down the
I
limit
guess
of
he's
California,
also a
and
secret
even to
psycho.
other states. The Shasta County Sheriff's Office received theories from everyone regarding Sherry's case, including Facebook detectives, people who saw Sherry in dreams, and a surplus of self-proclaimed psychics. Over 600 tips and leads related to Sherry's
That's what makes me the best YouTuber, Michael. I don't know how to turn on my online personality, and I don't know how to turn off my online personality. It's wild. It's amazing being me.
disappearance poured into the tip line. Many feared Keith was behind Sherry's disappearance and implored detectives to take a closer look at him.
No, even trying to look at him like he's a killer. It's like, nah, I don't see killer when I look at him. Like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer, you could look at them and go like, yeah, maybe. But this guy, you're like, there ain't no fucking way in hell. He's a dandy. No way in hell.
However, it was eventually deemed that Keith was not responsible for Sherry going missing. He voluntarily took multiple polygraph exams, which didn't indicate deception. Other factors along with these findings led authorities to determine Keith wasn't involved in his wife's disappearance, and they focused their efforts elsewhere. Furthermore, police were able to contact the Best Buy where Keith was employed and confirmed that he was indeed at work all day on November 2nd. It should also be clarified that no allegations of abuse by Keith, mental, physical, or otherwise, have ever been proven. In fact, as you'll see, police would find information that could possibly cast doubt on these allegations later down the road. But for now, detectives were at a standstill. None of the hundreds of tips nor any of the information they got from Keith got police any closer to discovering Sherry's whereabouts. Then, in the early hours of Thanksgiving Day 2016, something mind-blowing happened. It started around 4:30 a.m. when California Highway Patrol Dispatch received several concerning calls reporting a pedestrian on the freeway. These calls have never been released to the public until now.
911 emergency, what are you reporting?
Why, I wanted to report somebody in the middle of the freeway on I-5.
And what do you mean they're in the middle of the highway? In a car? Or they're standing there?
No, standing in the middle of the freeway.
She's saying that she got kicked out of her boyfriend's.
Okay, just be safe where you are. What is she asking for?
She's asking for an ambulance. She's chained up, her vision's blurry, and she needs an ambulance.
Do you see her chained up?
Yes.
Can I talk to her?
Please, please.
Sherry, I need you to listen to me. Listen to me. Do you know where you are?
No. I've been in the car. Yes,
Okay,
in the car.
sweetie, listen. Listen to me. I need you to take a deep breath, calm down, and listen to what I'm saying. I have an officer en route. We've had several calls. Are you chained up?
Yes.
Okay, take a deep breath, sweetie. Who chained you up? Do you know the person, or were you kidnapped?
Oh, yeah, Michael, I know that. Some of the ladies I was in prison with are actually in prison for killing their husbands. But I don't know how, but they still ended up getting charged with murder even after like having bruises and police reports and shit. I don't remember their names, but yeah, that battered spouse syndrome. Like that seems like it doesn't even account for anything anymore. But just keep watching and find out what happens with this chick, man. It's wild. I don't know the whole story. I just know. Never mind. I'm gonna shut up. Just keep watching.
I never saw her face.
Listen to what I'm at. Listen to what I'm at. Sherry, take a deep breath, because it's hard to help you if I can't understand you. Okay? How did you get chained up? What happened?
She took me.
Who took you? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
No, there was two of them.
Okay, listen. I have help on the way.
I want to call my husband. I want to call my husband.
Okay, listen. Take a deep breath. Where were you taken from?
From Reading.
You were taken from Reading?
Reading. I live in Reading.
Okay, how did someone take you? Okay, Sherry, we will get help with you and we will get your husband, but right now I need you to help me help you. Do you know how someone took you? How did they get you out from Reading?
The storm's starting.
Ma'am, right now I need you to get me information so I can help you. We will get in touch with your husband as well, but right now. Okay, I have officers and I have ambulance on the way. Right now I need you to talk to me.
I want to call my husband. I want to call my husband.
The young wife and mother who'd vanished 22 days earlier seemed to appear out of thin air onto the shoulder of Interstate 5. When she was found, she looked malnourished and her wrists and ankles were bound with a mix of zip ties and what appeared to be hose clamps. Around her waist was a thick metal chain held together by a padlock. Police arrived and she was transported from the side of the highway to a nearby hospital to be medically assessed. Official police records indicate that Sherry was reluctant to speak with authorities at the time of her rescue. One detective stated that she seemed irritated by the questions he presented to her. However, Keith encouraged her to provide what information she could in order to aid in the investigation. It was also noted that Sherry told a responding officer she'd managed to escape, while she claimed to investigators that her captors had released her. To add further confusion, Sherry stated to Keith that she should have just ran. If she had, in fact, been chained up, however, this clearly wouldn't have been an option. In addition, Sherry told Keith that initially the truck driver who'd pulled over to provide her with assistance had frightened her. She feared she was about to have to fight him off. Perhaps her strangest comments were in regards to the outcomes of the recent presidential election and World Series championship. After all she'd been through, it seems these items should have been the least of her concerns. Here we have a first look at the real photos of Sherry's injuries taken by police, some of which are stomach-churning and may be disturbing to some viewers. When she arrived at the hospital, doctors found a large hive-like rash covering her left arm. All manner of bruises, old, new, large, and small, across most of her body, a number of bruises on her face. Her lips were cracked, her nose was broken, and there was a deep hole in her left forearm caused by a burn. Most horrifically, she'd been freshly but shoddily branded on her back with a Bible verse by some heated tool. She would allege that her captors had told her she was going to be sold to a police officer who would like the Exodus branding that had been applied to her shoulder. Perhaps this was the explanation as to why she was reluctant to speak with law enforcement upon her rescue. Overall, though disturbing, her injuries weren't life-threatening. Police, of course, had to ask her the question that everyone wanted to know. Where had Sherry been for the last 22 days? What she told them was completely unexpected. She reported to police that she had been kidnapped while running by 2 Spanish-speaking women who tortured her, barely fed her, and kept her chained in a closet inside their home. She also mentioned being transported by her captors in a dark vehicle, the make and model of which she didn't know. Sherry discussed her injuries and ailments with the hospital staff, including the doctor who was tasked with assessing her condition upon her arrival.
Sometimes if you are left enclosed for a while, you get kind of a heat rash here, and that's what that kind of looks like.
He explained the likely cause of the rash she'd sustained. According to Sherry, the women behind her imprisonment even made her wear an adult diaper. But that's the most detectives would get from Sherry that day. Sherry was bandaged up and returned home to her family. Meanwhile, the sheriff's office was abuzz, now convinced that they were now on the hunt for the 2 violent female abductors on the loose in California. 4 days later, detectives visited Sherry's residence to gather more from her about exactly where she'd been for the last 3 weeks.
Just ask you to tell us your information whenever we get going, and you just tell us everything as you want, and as we go, we'll ask some questions, clarify some stuff, and hopefully by the end of today we have a very good idea of what's going on. I mean, so like Kyle says, you're in control. You need to take a break. Say when, and we'll go off air and all that kind of stuff, okay?
I feel like sometimes it's easier with my eyes closed.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can do anything you want, other than assault me or hit Kyle. You can hit Kyle all you want. I'm good with that. Just don't hit me.
Notice right off the bat how Sherry is sitting, very childlike, with her arms wrapped around her legs. She's exhibiting a lot of self-soothing yet juvenile behavior. It's very interesting that Sherry would ask to give her account with her eyes shut. When someone shields their face or eyes during a conversation, as Sherry has just requested permission to do, this is a blocking behavior that is typically considered evasive, and it can indicate that the topic is uncomfortable or distressing to them. Alternatively, it can also be a sign that they aren't confident in what they're saying, or even that they're lying. However, everyone handles trauma differently, and detectives must be mindful that a victim's individual needs are considered.
Also, my skin is still very itchy everywhere, so I apologize. Everything is itchy all everywhere.
No problem.
Sherry's alleged itchiness could potentially be her way of preemptively explaining future self-soothing behaviors she may soon be exhibiting.
Where would you like to start?
I have no.
Okay. So on November 2nd, 2016, what happened?
Did my usual routine, fed the chickens.
I don't like her.
Cleaned everything. Just the usual.
I don't like her
Note the
face.
repetition of the word usual. She uses it to describe everything that was going on that day. By repeating that everything was usual, it keeps her from having to come up with details about what she actually did that morning.
Nothing, yeah. Text message to my husband.
I don't like her
To
face.
come home for lunch. Which, looking back is quite embarrassing. He's like, thanks for, that last text message. Honey, will you please come home to have sex with your wife for lunch?
So you went to daycare that morning, right? You remember that? Okay. Tell me about your drive to daycare.
No, ordinary, just
A normal day?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the normal. Fed the kids breakfast. dropped him off at Pandora's, nothing unusual. It wasn't even a hard goodbye. Sometimes they're like, no, don't leave me.
And then when you left daycare, tell me about what you did after daycare.
Drove back home,
Okay.
did my usual, put on my boot shoes, went out to the chicken coop, cleaned the coop, and then just started my usual cleaning, everything. Wrapped up present, got frustrated, changed into running clothes.
I don't know.
Love so much that my
That would
husband
be
knows my
interesting,
clothing
wouldn't it?
so well that he knew what I was wearing.
And what were you wearing?
I was wearing that pink Nike hooded sweatshirt with the thumb holes that I hate, and the black
See,
tight.
that's how you can tell she's psycho right there. She's like, I hate the thumb holes. The thumb holes are life. Look, lady, look. See, she has a hateable face just because thumb holes are life. This bitch.
I don't want to say they're leggings because they're a little thicker than that. The black tight, stripy, not really stripy, just kind of black and white, speckled, we'll say. I want to be a better runner. I like to run, but it's difficult for me. So like getting back in the swing of it, I had an app that I would use that does, run this far, walk, run this far, walk, and it amps you up to like a 5K. Started running, saw the maybe there was 3 guys cutting the tree at what's his name's house? The guy that did our Toby. Thank you. Toby's house. So down Casa, turned right onto Sunrise. Got to the mailboxes, or just before the mailboxes started to slow down, I was just about to transition into walk. So it's run, walk, run, walk. Right when I got towards the mailboxes was right before it was going to say, now slow down. That's what the app does.
We've listened to the app. It's pretty
God.
powerful. Now, walk.
Yeah.
Now, slow
You're
down.
halfway through.
Right? You're doing good.
Yeah.
So it's a funny app.
Sherry appears to want to be liked by the officers and seems to be trying to form a connection with them, which isn't necessarily unusual. She keeps her eyes locked on one of the detectives as she gives a dramatic replay of her running app. However, she's showing signs of classic rapport building techniques done by narcissistic individuals. She presents herself as likable and someone in need of protection by highlighting her imperfections, along with a lot of sustained eye contact and dramatic focus.
So you get almost to the mailboxes and you think
Sorry, my lips are
Secret psycho. It's thundering outside right now.
and
Do you need some water?
no, everything's like this.
So you're about
Painful right here. Sorry.
you're good. You're about to the mailboxes.
About to the mailboxes.
Keep watching, Michael. Keep watching. This is fun.
And these are the mailboxes near.
At the end of the Sunrise Drive. My mailbox.
Sherry is exhibiting the anxiety she's feeling. The reasons behind this discomfort are not yet known, but will soon be uncovered. Keith places a water bottle near Sherry after she mentions that her lips are dry. It's impossible to know his intentions.
You're doing good, Sherry. You're having a hard
the window goes down, but it was a woman.
Okay, Michael, see you in a little bit. Tell your dad I said
Traumatic
hi.
memories are often difficult to recall and talk about. This is sometimes a result of dissociative amnesia, or the brain's proclivity to block out certain memories that it deems too distressing. This occurrence is a product of survival instinct and serves as a protective mechanism that can help the individual cope after a traumatic event. However, note that as Sherry started to talk about being kidnapped, her lips disappeared. This indicates that someone is experiencing
Shit,
a negative
Michael.
emotion. Disappearing lips does not always mean someone is being deceptive. It just suggests that they're likely feeling anxious.
It's frustrating because I know she was wearing a hat, but I can't see the color and I can't see her clothes.
Once again, we see Sherry exhibiting blocking behavior, and she buries her face in her knees.
Let's talk about the big details.
I'll make a note. we
He
can come back
asked for help. I want to say it's maybe like a hey or
Miss Muddy, wait, do you know about this lady? Do you know about this lady? Did you hear about her? This bitch is psycho. Well, technically, I don't know that, but did you hear about her before? Sherry Papini.
something to get my attention.
Is that the passenger or the driver?
Oh, Nolly, you're still here too. Oh, well, sweet. I'm gonna shut up. Nolly, keep watching. This chick is crazy.
Is the car on Sunrise right now, or is it still on
No.
Old Oregon Trail?
It's on Old Oregon Trail. I walked towards where the vehicle had backed up, but was still far enough away from it that, because I was still cautious. I had my phone in my right hand and my earbuds on, and I took out my left to hear her. And then she opened the door. And then I saw the small.
Do you want to come say hi, Kelso?
And
Come say hi so they can see you. Hold on. I'll make it bigger so they can see you. Kelso. Kelso. Come here. I know you don't want to, but can I see you? I just wanted everybody to see how beautiful you were. You don't even look like me, so you know you're beautiful. Oh no, something's happening. I'm done. I'm done. I swear, right now.
And I immediately ducked down. I crouched down. Like in a ducking, crouching. It was, okay, so across the road, phone's in my hand, earbud out.
As she describes her story, Sherry acts out certain details wrong. She's repeatedly said it was her left earbud she pulled out, but consistently acts out reaching for her right ear. It doesn't seem like a huge deal, but when a lot of these mismatches show up, detectives will become rightfully suspicious.
Towards the vehicle, this, not all the way down, squatting, not crouching, squatting. Laid my phone down.
Perhaps in an effort to remember the details of her harrowing story, Sherry jotted down some notes that were later found during the course of the investigation. They included information about the alleged captors, the smaller, younger one, longer curly hair, no bangs, and hairy arms.
Hella detail
The
for
bigger,
made
older
up
one
people.
had straight, thick, dark black hair.
Never mind.
And
I
thick
didn't say that.
eyebrows.
I can't remember if she said we don't want to hurt you, we don't want to kill you. I can't remember exactly if it's we don't want to something, we don't want to something, we don't want to something. And then I put my phone down. As soon as I set it down, I was so mad because I couldn't call my husband. And as soon as I set it down,
Mm-mm.
and then I turned and I pulled my hair out because
Too
I
far.
ran away, and I didn't, and I should have, and I just, that's all I,
Do you want to come back up to the table?
and then I got up and went this direction. And I can't remember lifting my leg, I can't remember the back door open.
Sometimes your brain says, we're not accessing that part right now because it's not time. We're not ready for it. So I've done it in the past with different cases where you look at it from a different point of view, okay? Because your mind, your body uses different parts of your brain to access different pieces of information, okay? Believe it or not, that's what happens. Going back to before you see the car, if there was a bird, a bluebird, a robin, whatever bird you pick, sitting on the fence line, sitting on the mailbox, sitting on the telephone line, or sitting in the tree, can you imagine in your mind, looking at it from the bluebird's perspective, what is that bluebird seeing going on?
Running to the mailboxes, cutting diagonally. I didn't cut diagonally until the vehicle stopped, backed up, and then stopped again. I stopped at the grassy area, squatted, pulled out my hair, had my hands up. That is it.
Does the bluebird see which side of the car you got in on?
The car didn't move after it stopped, so I would say that would be the passenger side.
But you don't know. Just
remember.
That's fine.
It seems that the basis of this trauma-informed technique is having the victim talk from the outside without engaging the emotions of the first-person perspective. This makes recounting the event easier and less traumatic.
Does the bluebird see which way the car goes? Or what's the car do next?
Yeah. It wasn't what I saw, it was what I felt. I was very nauseous and cold.
Is the vehicle moving or stationary?
The vehicle was moving. It was windy.
Okay.
Windy roads make me nauseous.
Do you remember getting out of the car?
No.
You had an observation or a thought that the back window in the vehicle was locked?
Yeah, I think it ended up being something like that. Yeah. I didn't watch any of the stuff on it. I just know who she is and what she did. I don't know any of the story on it or whatever. This is the most in-depth thing I've seen about it so far. So this is the first time I'm ever hearing the whole thing about it. But she has a very unlovable face.
Large?
Long.
Long?
Yes.
Describe, what do you mean by that? I mean, it's one of those, duh, Brian. Describe that for me.
Not like a truck bed that's covered, like a SUV.
Okay.
But some SUVs are like shorter.
Right.
It was longer.
You're talking about from side to side?
Yes.
You're talking about the back where if it...
Not the passenger door window. There's
Actual
another window
rear
past the passenger door window.
You and I are looking out Sunrise to Old Oregon Trail. Was the vehicle going this way?
Yep. And then
That truck is known as the
So
Denali.
right now I'm pointing, that's northbound, and it backed up a little bit, then that's when you encounter.
northbound's the side that's closest to Sunrise Drive, correct?
Correct.
Yes, then that's it. I'm very frustrated because if you're laying down in a vehicle, you would feel a U-turn, acceleration, a braking. And I can't find that.
It's just not there yet.
Do you remember any music as you were driving around in the car?
Mariachi music.
Was it a station or what? Pandora?
Like as in a radio station? I want to say it was probably a radio station. I can't be sure, but did I hear any Pandora commercials? No.
Did you hear any normal commercials? So like if we're listening to a radio.
No, I didn't hear commercials. Like I didn't really hear, and I don't think I ever heard a complete song from start to finish either.
When she's describing this kidnapping event, she goes into a bit of a trance. She turns inward to imagine the scene, and it's like she's telling a story. She doesn't really want to be interrupted. She's very detailed about the run, the phone, and soon the room she was kept in. But there are almost no details about the car, the kidnappers, or the kidnapping itself. She has what is known as a detail valley surrounding the kidnapping itself, mountains of details surrounding it, but very limited about the actual kidnapping.
I listened for that a lot in the house too. Like, was this a radio? Was it Pandora or
So, since we've touched it twice, you mentioned the house twice or location where you remember. Can we talk about that? Start with you. Tell us.
What would you like? The description of the room? Would you like
Sure.
the sounds that I heard? Would you like what I think was there? What would you like?
What was the first thing you remember?
The first thing I remember was the
She's flirting with that cop.
on my hands, and then the clothing that was very big. It was baggy clothing. It was sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and I did not have socks, and I was very cold, and there was zip ties on my hands, and I didn't feel good. I couldn't stand up. I was very dizzy.
When you first had this and the sweatshirt stuff, is that the same stuff that you were found in the other day?
No.
How so?
Because they would change me.
Okay.
This conflicts with Sherry's story upon arrival at the hospital. You likely recall the recorded conversation between Sherry and the attending doctor.
Sometimes if you are left enclosed for a while, you get kind of a heat rash here. And that's what that kind of looks like. Along this arm here.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere. Is that okay? Were you in the same clothes for a long period of time without bathing? Okay. That's probably what's going on there.
Because there was a drawstring on the sweatpants. There was a drawstring on the sweatpants, and the other one didn't have a drawstring.
How many times do you think you were changed? Or had to change of clothes? Obviously at least twice. Was there...
Yeah, I think maybe one more time.
Did it seem like the clothes were new? Or old?
Wait a minute.
Okay.
She's
The
wild,
sweatshirt,
Michael.
The top was changed more because I was trying to manipulate her. My skin was like on fire. It was really itchy everywhere, and I started this rash that's up in here. It was starting to like swell, starting to swell so bad that it was like putting pressure on my arm. So I was trying to manipulate them. I need some kind of medicine. Like, look at my skin. You need to wash me. You need to give me medicine. You need to get me something. And I was using that, and it was so itchy. So they would argue about washing my clothes. And I was able to take two showers. They were really cheap. calling it a shower. It was get in, rinse water down your back, and get out. But she let me wash my underpants in the shower.
Were you able to see at that time, or were you still had a bag over your
No,
head?
I could see. And that was when I was trying, you know, it was always look down. Don't look at us, look down. I was never allowed to look up. The first day with the zip ties, getting out of them, because they were behind my back. So I pulled them, I did one of these moves. And that's what this scar right there is from, is the very beginning, when I got them off. And I bit them because I couldn't, because Keith and I have even tried this move before, the whole, you know, like power through it and bust it. And I tried that and was unsuccessful. And it cut right here. And I was like, I remember doing this with Keith. How the F do I get these off? And I tried that several times, and I tried the power bust it down, and that's where it cut in right there. And then I was like, I can't bust through them. So then I just chewed it off, and I cut my lip right here, and then I busted them. And then it was like I tried the door. I could tell that the door had a deadbolt at the top, so I couldn't open the door. And then they came in, and that's all I remember from that experience. No, there's something else. No, there's something else before I tried the door. There was something else before I tried the door.
The windows?
Sherry appears to remember some details vividly, such as how exactly she got a scar on her wrist from the zip ties. However, she's unable to recall other details, like any physical description of her kidnappers. When the person being interviewed appears to have a memory of extremes, meaning they either have an unusually good memory of events that happened months ago, or they can't remember recent events, it can be a possible red flag for deception.
After I broke the zip ties, there was boards on the windows, and I yanked that fucker out of the wall super quick, and that's what got her in the room, was that noise. She came in, and then it was lights out.
What do you mean it was lights out?
I can't remember if I was hit with something, if I was stuck with something, and that's what I was asking too. If I was tased, wouldn't I remember? Or would there be a scar? Would there be a mark? Would there be a mark?
It just depends if the probes made skin contact. How about the bathroom? What's that look like?
I tried to hit her with something in the bathroom, and then the next time I went in the bathroom, everything was gone. The mirror was gone, the towel rack was gone. And you could hear, like if you put your head to the wall, because I did that often, you could hear very easily. And the insulation, it was freezing all the time. It was cold all the time. And there was a fireplace. I could smell the fireplace, and I could hear that creaky.
Is it thunderstorming where you guys are? It's thunderstorming here. Like, it's real big lightning. Is it where you guys are?
When you move the handle to open the fireplace, it was that creaky.
A minute ago you said when I was on the cable, were you tethered to a cable?
There was a chain around my waist.
Okay.
The cable I could reach all the way to the bed. Couldn't reach the door. Couldn't reach the window. At all times there was a bucket in the closet. That's what I used to go to the bathroom in. There was a dresser, but after I ripped this up when I woke up, it was no longer there.
Where was the dresser the first day you were there?
Here.
Was it tall, like a man's dresser, or like a short, long, like a woman's dresser?
Two dark colored two drawers.
Okay, so
What about you, Miss Muddy? Is it raining and thundering there?
more like nightstands.
Hey, go.
More like that, I would say. One, not two, just one.
Was the mattress directly on the floor?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember anything in this area?
No.
was the cable affixed to the wall and like the cable was loose?
The cable was affixed to a pole that went up into the ceiling.
Okay. So we have this pole that was anchored to the roof somewhere.
Correct.
What was on the pole?
The shelves that I couldn't get out. They were like super bolted in, like they'd added more stuff to it to not get them, because the first day when I broke my fingernails, it was trying to get the screws, trying to undo the screws.
And that was like on these sides?
And yes, and trying to get to where the drywall was, because there was
Oh,
drywall.
I don't like her.
But I couldn't. And trying to move that pole, but I couldn't move the pole. The pole too, it wasn't just like a pole, it was like almost, it's not quite rebar. It was, okay, so think of if you had a screw that was big and long and you tried to grab it, it would like cut your fingers almost. Is that making any sense?
Like a lag bolt?
I don't know what that is.
It's a big screw. Yeah, you described a lag bolt. It's a large wood screw that kind of similar to like rebar, but it's for.
Yeah, it
that
wasn't
would
very
be
thick.
huge. No.
It wasn't like I could grab it with both hands. It wasn't thick enough that I had to do this. It was,
Like you put it in your hands.
yes,
and go like
but I couldn't grab it. Like those were
hurting
some
your
of the
hand?
first injuries that I had, was trying to rip the stupid thing out, and I made my hands bleed a lot. That there was just, it wouldn't give at all.
Does it go through the shelf?
Yes,
Okay, so if this is the shelf,
if I could have gotten the shelf off, I could have gotten out, because I could have pulled the cable just straight off of it.
When Sherry slams her hands down on the table for emphasis, the emphasis is severely delayed, indicating a mismatch between her thoughts and her speech. It's possible that she has so many things going on in her mind as she's remembering this traumatic event that she can't keep up. However, it's also possible that Sherry is being deceptive about her attempts to escape.
It was the shelf that I couldn't get off.
Since the interview had been going on for a few hours at that point, it was agreed that they would call it a day and let Sherry rest. Detectives returned to her residence the following morning to continue the questioning.
but as far as getting started today, I don't know if yesterday jogged some more memories or if there's things you want to add. But basically, we
No.
can just start with.
I would
We never touched the topic of being cut.
just stop talking.
I'm not sure what led up to it.
Just stop talking.
Cable that was where the cable was attached at the top, anytime you
Lessons on how to talk yourself into jail.
made a movement or moved it, it made a really loud noise. So when I would make noise, they would rush in to the room. I think that's why. I don't think there was anything else.
Just real quick. She was only gone for 22 days. She's explaining shit from people that were in like severe thing for like months, weeks. Like, this is crazy. Like, she's explaining it to be so severe. But she was only gone for 22 days. And the severity of the things that she's saying that they did to her, or how she tried to escape, she has like 0 injuries. Like 0.
Else, because there wasn't anything in the trash can, so it was. I don't feel like it was time for that. Maybe I want to say it was just because there was a noise. They said something in Spanish to each other. The other one was outside the room. I was hit here on the shoulder, and then it was a yank backwards.
Gotcha.
Yank backwards. I feel like it happened really fast, but not. I don't know.
That's fine.
Right, that's what I'm saying, Michael. A lot can happen within 22 days, but she has 0 injuries.
One thing to keep in mind while you listen to Sherry's story is that deceptive statements tend to contain fewer unique words and more repeating words than truthful statements.
Yank backwards.
Gotcha.
Yank backwards.
When you lie well, you tend to rely on prefabricated statements that are borrowed from previous stories of your experiences or things you've seen. That way, you sound more natural and believable.
I was down, she was over me, had it in her hand, and then I felt it here. Like I felt like that blunt edge because she had cut it above my hair tie. Felt it here, and she said, I'm going to send it to your mother, or I'm going to send this to your mother. I'm going to send it to your mother. I can't remember exactly, but I'm going to your mother. When she was cutting it, it was very upsetting. And then she said that, and I kind of went, and it was one of those moments where it was emotional for me that.
Right. She was beat up. They said she was beat up pretty bad. And she had a burn hole or something like that.
That she was cutting my hair. And I feel like her saying that almost pulled me back into survival mode, I guess. It also made me feel like she didn't know me.
Keith presses onto his face, referred to as facial distortion, then keeps his hand over his face for a second. These are typically signs of discomfort. Perhaps he's feeling unsettled at the description of his wife's torture, but there is an alternative theory that maybe he's caught on to something peculiar in his wife's story. Sherry goes from having a hard time remembering the circumstances of having her hair cut to suddenly reciting nearly word for word what was said to her. She described having her hair forcibly chopped as a highly memorable event, as it might be for anyone. Thus, it's quite unusual that Sherry would have difficulties recounting it. These mental blackouts seem to be following a particular pattern that'll be of interest to detectives later down the road. As well, she's steepling her hands as she speaks here, which is an indication that talking about this part of cutting her hair makes her feel in control, perhaps because it's something she's comfortable sharing the details about.
Do you recall what they used to cut your hair?
I didn't see anything. I never saw anything.
Did you hear any sounds? Like
Like
scissors?
clipping?
Like the scissors would make?
Yeah.
Or anything like that? And if you don't know, if you can't think about it,
I can't.
don't.
I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
Like whether it was like a.
Okay, my theory on the whole hair thing is he loves her hair. She purposely cut her hair. So she was steepling her hands like that because she had control of her hair. So it was like a fuck you to that guy.
Nipping sound or just a. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
Did either, so let's say during their hitting or being violent towards you, is there any time that one of the females would try to stop the other one?
Yes, the younger one. I feel like
I didn't even use God
I
voice.
could, because I couldn't
Damn it.
understand her, but I feel like her body language was the pointing and very, or this is a, body language wise. Doesn't matter what language you speak. I mean, because I was never allowed to look them in the face, but I did see this signal with her hand facing that way, which is stop, obviously. But I feel like the bigger one enjoyed it and the little one did not. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely, the things like the burn, cutting my hair, the burn on my arm, the chain, the lock, that was all from the bigger one. It was not from the little one. The little one would feed me most often.
It's difficult to conclude Keith's thoughts from his body language, especially since it's unclear whether he's heard
He's
any
like
of this
this
from Sherry
lying
before in
bitch.
private. However, he seems somewhat tuned out from the conversation, having been zoned out on his phone several times through the interview. A more typical response would be to look at Sherry and be fully engaged in the interview process, or even demonstrate support in this extremely painful moment by sitting closer to her or patting her back.
No.
Keith's emotional disconnection could possibly be the result of antisocial or narcissistic traits. Or perhaps these details are simply painful for him to hear, as they're reflective of the idea that he couldn't protect her, and so he's distracting himself from listening closely.
What'd you eat? Or what'd they give you to eat?
What's it called again, Dave? I keep forgetting the name of that. Cream of wheat. But it was like dry, like barely mixed. And
Cream of wheat is
rice,
amazing.
tortillas. One day I got 2 apples.
Fuck what you heard. Cream of wheat is my favorite. That if I had like a favorite breakfast food, it'd be cream of wheat. Yep.
A cracker. And sometimes it was like scraps, like the fat off of a piece of meat or something, like they had just scraped it off of a plate.
Yeah,
Did you
no.
eat regularly or just sporadically? Or did they bring you food? Was it?
No, it was maybe once a day, but it was hard because I feel like every time I would somewhat get on a routine to exercise my mind, this is the time of the day because my body was starting to get hungry at the same time. I was always hungry, but like I would exercise at the same time and I would try to get a routine down. It would change as soon as I feel like maybe. See, it's hard because I feel like sometimes I felt like it was the next day, but then it could have been the same day, or it felt like a day had gone by, but then it didn't.
You were literally only gone for 22 days.
I don't think it was more than once a day.
You said you exercised your mind. What were you doing? What were you doing then?
I would sing the song I sang to. I would read the books I read to my children. I can hear my husband. I would mouth things he would sing, Christmas carols, and the random jingles he would sing in our kitchen. A lot of times it was, if Keith was here, what would Keith do? If Keith was here, what would Keith do?
Do you know how you received most of those injuries on your legs?
No, but even originally before then, I bruise really easily.
Hold on.
So it could have even been something that I possibly could have done. There's a lot of hitting with something. I didn't like being in the closet. It was a lot of shoving around the closet area.
Do you remember specifically being kicked?
I'm sorry,
Being
the
kicked?
fire popped it. Kicked?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a good example of Keith's remarkable reactions, or lack thereof. The entire time he's listening to his wife describe being assaulted, he shows no change of facial expression, no shifting in his seat to indicate discomfort, nothing at all. In fact, throughout the majority of her story, Keith comes across as almost bored. Again, it's possible he's been desensitized to this information after hearing it multiple times, though that theory is unlikely. Even if that were the case, it's still unusual that he doesn't show any sort of response to what he's hearing, a profound lack of empathy on his part, or a healthy bit of skepticism.
I don't remember if we.
He knows when his wife is lying.
And how that occurred.
I would be able to
I
tell
was
if
woken up
Dustin
by
was
it, and
lying.
I can't remember if it was like this or if it was like that. But I was woken up by it.
So you were sleeping?
Correct. On the bed. I was told to change. There was already clothing on the bed. I felt so dizzy. My ears were ringing. When I tried to put the sweatpants on, I fell over.
Well, obviously, I'm assuming it was bleeding. How did you clean that up?
It didn't bleed very much. Didn't bleed, yeah, it really didn't bleed very much.
Did any of that end up on the walls or on the floor or?
I would assume so. It had to have been on the floor because I set the sweater down. It wasn't profusely bleeding, so I wouldn't say that it was drifting onto the floor.
I'm going to go through a list of some things, and it's going to require hearing. So however you want to access that part of your brain, usually when I try to do
Yeah,
something,
he wants us to be over. He's like,
yes,
I'm so
no's,
done.
I don't knows are all fine answers.
Okay.
Farm animals,
No.
equipment, farm equipment.
He's a worse actor than her. He is way worse at this than her.
No.
Buses,
No.
train,
No.
telephone.
No.
Now that you're listening, do you recall any other sounds that I haven't?
The fireplace, the creak, the flushing of a toilet, the TV.
It's interesting to note here that Sherry only uses larger illustrators as she's briefly describing the area where she was released. People typically use illustrators while they're talking, so it's actually a red flag that Sherry is so reserved with her body language. She remains balled up and with her hands in most of the time. This lack of movement is most often seen in individuals who are being deceptive, as their brain is in overdrive attending to their made-up story. The cognitive overload restricts their body from engaging fully with what they're saying.
I have a sound to ask about.
Go ahead.
Long distance gunshots, like shotguns from people bird hunting.
No.
Have you ever heard, do you know what sound I'm referring to?
No. Yes, I have, and no.
School bells?
No. I could hear the wood being brought in. I know that sound, the clink of like stacking wood.
Mm-hmm.
But never a chainsaw, an axe.
It stands out as odd that Sherry didn't hear any remarkable noises in the 22 days she was in solitary confinement, especially given that she was, reportedly, inside a room with an exterior-facing wall. With nothing to distract her, she would have been hyper-aware of her senses and particularly sensitive to noises. Also, the speed with which she's declining each prompt has an air of dismissiveness. She's taking little to no time to think back on the proposed sounds. Up to this point, Sherry realistically has revealed little to no information that can narrow down the search for her kidnappers. But the detectives very patiently carry on.
Hearing a barking dog.
Oh my God.
I did on the last day. That's scary.
What do you mean?
On the road. On the road near when I was trying to go to the.
Let's talk about it.
I'm sorry.
Let's talk about that.
I interrupted you and talked over you and didn't hear you. Sorry.
Let's talk about that. Since it's there in your mind.
The barking dog was when I was trying to figure out how to get into. Can I ask you what was that? Is it a shipping yard? Is it a junkyard? What was that? Fenced-in area next to the freeway.
Well, there's two. There's like a lumber yard and there's like a propane yard.
Okay, there was I want to say like a modular type of house, or like an office, would have been like an office building.
Yeah. Was it on the same side of the freeway as the church? Or on the other side of the freeway?
The opposite side. What was that?
Propane pole.
Okay, that's where I was trying to get, but couldn't, and then heard a dog barking. There was a house. I went near the house. I stood in front of the house, looked at the house, and went, nope. It was very dark.
Once you try to find help in that area, what'd you do next?
There was that creepy house that I left. I went to the fenced area.
I wonder who he's
The
texting.
entire time I was trying to.
Do you think he's texting his new girlfriend? Like, I'm going to be divorced in a couple weeks.
Get the zip tie off. I couldn't reach it with my mouth, so I was trying to I don't know what this was called. I was trying to use that.
Hose clamp?
Thank you. To get that off. Ran on top of the freeway. It was very difficult because my feet were very cold. My ankles were very wobbly. I was very dizzy. I was very, I'm going to say short of breath, but short of breath from the screaming. And then ran downward. And the on-ramp, off-ramp, there was a truck parked with no lights on.
It's like a big rig?
Yes, and I stood there and stared at the big rig.
I bet he's hating every minute of this, little Nolly. Do you think he's texting his new girlfriend?
And thought, there's probably someone inside there.
Oh, God.
I think I'm gonna go knock on that door. And then I saw the lights. No, that's not right. I saw the lights to the church before I saw that truck.
Light. And
I even walked out into the middle of the freeway, and cars drove around me, like literally drove around me. And then I started screaming, call 911, call 911.
oh, man. An idiot.
But there was some that you recall when you were dropped off in that area?
I'm trying to remember whether the car pulled over, spun around. I don't remember feeling any of that. I remember feeling and hearing the clipping, and then get out, and falling out of the vehicle. I don't remember if she touched me, if she pulled me. I remember that didn't feel great.
So one of your
You think his new girlfriend is a brunette?
Correct.
How did that become free?
There was a clipping noise. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think if there was the cable. I didn't hear like the clicking noise that like handcuffs would make, certainly. I feel like it may have been another cable here, under here.
So how long was your hands to your waist? Was that something new?
Oh, that was new.
Oh.
Oh, you mean the zip tie?
Yes, the zip tie to
This
your-
was new. I don't remember this being put on. I've been searching my brain for that. I don't remember the metal pieces being put on, and that is very frustrating because that's something that I should remember.
So I have a picture of your legs I want to show you. I want to see if you recall being kicked or stomped. I'm looking at your right shin area.
When needing to lean in closer to the detectives, Sherry engages in a significant amount of shifting her clothes and other grooming behaviors. In addition, her blinking rate increases. Nervousness often triggers a heightened level of physiological arousal, which can manifest as fidgeting or other subconscious behaviors. Blinking excessively might be a result of this heightened state.
I don't like her
Blinking
face.
helps to keep the surface of the eye moist and lubricated. When you're nervous, your body's stress response can cause changes in tear production and evaporation rates. Blinking more frequently can help to replenish the tear film and maintain eye comfort.
That is a great answer, Nolly.
In this area here on your shin.
Not specifically, no. I feel like every interaction, something's hurt.
Gotcha. But you do recall being kicked or
Yes.
stomped on,
Hit with objects, kicked, stomped on, yes.
slapped, punched,
Yes.
whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
Never slapped.
Okay.
I feel like I have a good enough sense on how the brand occurred. So I don't need a whole, I don't need the.
Exodus 2. We just read that.
Yes. Let's get it over with.
So obviously there's each lettering to it. Was it all at once or was it several different?
It was separate. It was a long page.
And was that in one extended time period or was it over multiple days or?
All done in one extended time period.
And I know that the older one did it essentially. What was the younger one doing specifically at that time?
She was to the right. I feel like she was the one touching the I want to say tools or something. She was the one handling.
Could you hear it or could you see the tool?
I couldn't see it because it was behind me. Where my head was on the table, I couldn't, that's not really an angle where I could see it. I don't remember. No, I'm just trying to remember. Was there clicking? Was there? I remember the sound. Give me some.
You should give you something. I'll give you a pen.
Like that kind of sound. The setting down.
I know this is redundant,
That's okay.
but I will paraphrase so you can just say yes or no, or say no, Brian, you're wrong. This is it. Having talked with you the last 2 days, having spoke with Keith through Kyle and all that kind of stuff, from the day that you left until the day that you were only at one location to the best of your knowledge from the time that you got picked up to the time that you were released.
Oh, yes.
Because that, yes.
I probably would remember it.
Tips I gotta close out. Because you've been seen in Nebraska.
Oh, God.
You've been seen in Reno. Okay, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm cleaning up a lot of that crap.
Okay.
Because I have to address each tip one way or the other.
There was only 2 car rides. A car ride in and a car ride out.
Thank you much for that. To the best of your knowledge.
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Additionally, and to the best of your knowledge, you don't recall you physically going in to a store of any kind.
No.
Oh, here we go.
You don't recall ever being in the back of a pickup truck.
No.
And that's stupid.
That's
Brian,
okay.
You're annoying the shit.
That's okay.
But it's not, this isn't me.
I understand.
I'm addressing the masses.
The detective isn't phrasing these questions in the most optimal way. By beginning the questions with "you don't recall," he's using an unnecessary memory modifier, which effectively weakens the inquiry. Rephrasing the question to be more direct, such as asking, "Did you physically go into a store?" would generally yield a more meaningful answer.
When you physically left that residence or building that you were in,
Okay.
and you got outside to the steps, you went through a doorway.
To the left,
To the door
to
was
my knowledge. I went out of the doorway and stumbled down to the stairs, and then I want to say I'm leaning towards turning left.
okay. Was the door swinging inward or outward?
I don't know.
The blog that surfaced from a while back about the Hispanics and some thoughts or comments that people are spinning up. Can we clarify some of that stuff?
Yes, and it's awful because there's so much that my family is going through, and my life wasn't perfect before this. It's just an awful feeling that all of everything and the made up things, it's just a disgusting, yucky feeling of what it's doing to my family.
Well, these are things that will, until we can put them to bed, until we can resolve them, that regardless of how long this case goes, we get people in custody, it's gonna resurface. And so the best way to deal with it is to deal with it on the front end, officially. So that way we can put it to bed. Obviously, people are drawing the conclusions that you're reporting to Hispanics did this. You wrote some, I'm assuming, did you write the blog?
No,
How did the blog get written and posted under your name? Do you have any idea?
no, I have no idea.
This is the blog post the detective's referring to. The author of the report is cited as Sherry Graff, Sherry's maiden name. It was a page-long report published to a website where a girl growing up in Shasta Lake, California, the same place Sherry grew up, describes being constantly harassed and bullied by Hispanic kids for being drug-free, white, and proud of her blood and heritage. The author recounts the night at one of her volleyball games where a group of Latina girls threw ice and made Hitler salutes at her father. When the author confronted the girls, one supposedly attacked her, and the author proceeded to beat her up badly, breaking her nose and splitting her eyebrow. Weeks later, the author was closing down her family's business for the day when 3 Latino guys and 5 girls rushed in and jumped her, including the girl she'd beaten up weeks prior. However, the author fought back valiantly until eventually the attackers saw they couldn't defeat her, so they all suddenly ran out the door. The courageous tale ends with the author limping 9 blocks home with a fractured leg, but living to fight another day. One can clearly see how this might raise suspicion given the circumstances of Sherry's kidnapping. However, Sherry seems to have a simple enough explanation. It wasn't her.
But the post, yeah, obviously it's showing up.
So
on
now
the
they're calling her racist.
But it
Didn't people say my head's shaved now too? Sorry.
can't hear all the noise. But it originates from a MySpace account. We call them blogs now, but it's not. It originates from a MySpace account. Have you ever had a MySpace account?
Not that I can remember. I mean, that's,
It's old school.
yeah. I mean, even the Facebook page that I had was for a very short period of time. It's not for a very long period of time.
Prior to all this stuff, have you guys ever seen that blog before? Ever heard of it?
I've seen
You know what I'm referring to, right? The one about the
never-
Latinos behind her dad giving her shit.
Yeah,
You know, all that kind of stuff.
I've seen something similar to that.
The one that is out there now, no. When we had found it, I contacted the lawyer about getting it removed. And they had discussed, this is.
Finding out who created it.
Yes, this needs to be removed. It's obviously not me. And he couldn't get anywhere with getting it removed.
So the Keep Walking article, that's the one that's been focused and recently, that is similar to a past thing that you guys dealt with.
Correct.
And then this past one, there's a picture of what? Of what?
There's a photo of her when she's very, very young. And it's like she's looking up in the air.
It was like a picture from like the youth conferences, like the church youth conferences that I used to do and stuff. The school.
But it is a true picture, not something that somebody manipulated. It's an old picture that somebody obviously got hold of.
It was like from like my websites from the church stuff that I used to do.
Okay.
It was like from like almost like I don't want to say a group photo, but it was from a function that I had participated in.
Bottom line, it's even more elaborate now, it appears. I don't remember it because it's so long
People
ago.
are trying to spin it off as if this is the catalyst for what happened to you.
No, and
I'm trying to shut
I mean,
that
a week before that, I did it for the money, I think. I'll address this. Yeah. So
That's why we're here. Hey, remember yesterday we talked about some things that were going to be hard?
Yeah.
Going to irritate you?
This is where.
And
we
that's
come in
where
about
this
the
is
media
hard
as a
for
beast
me
and
because
you don't have to deal with all this dumb thing. But
So 500 tips.
I wasn't.
You got
You know
10.
what? I wasn't a perfect person before this, and that's
But what do you mean by that?
crap.
So what do you mean by that?
I skipped school and
Ran away?
did dumb kid stuff, and I had a really relationship with my parents. Excuse my vulgar language. And I lived at the Heart Center for a long time. I stayed in my high school gym at some times. I mean,
The interview came to a close, and armed with information from the victim herself, an army of federal and state agents officially commenced the search for the pair of kidnappers. Everyone waited eagerly for a conclusion to this story, but for
That's very detailed for made up people. Those are literally made up people. How detailed is that?
4 whole years, authorities could make no important discoveries. They were only able to pick up bits and pieces of relevant information, such as this surveillance video taken from a Kingdom Hall, which sat in the area where Sherry had been released by her captors. In this eerie footage, we see Sherry creep into the left side of the frame, just minutes after being let go. She appears to be looking around in a desperate attempt to get her bearings. Then she runs across the parking lot and into the darkness, disappearing out of sight. Over the years that the investigation was active, the Papinis regularly stayed in communication with the sheriff's office. Sherry received $30,000 in victim compensation funds from the California Government for Psychiatric Care. And with the love and support of family and friends, she was able to reassimilate back into normal life after her ordeal. No one questioned Sherry about her kidnapping, except Keith, who tried to help her remember details. There was no reason to. Everyone, the detectives included, only wanted to help her. That's exactly what makes this next part so unsettling. After a long, painful wait, there was a miraculous break in the case. The detective
Oh my God. Okay. Here we go. The truth.
couldn't have expected 4 years prior. Thanks to recent advances in DNA forensic science, detectives are sitting in front of Sherry again in 2020, this time with the case broken wide open.
So obviously it's been a long road, incredibly long road. But some stuff's come up. So we've always had the DNA out there in the world.
Sorry, Tom, before we get too far, obviously, just like always, thank you for coming. We appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us. As always, your presence here is voluntary. You can go at any time, and all we want is truthful statements because it's a crime to lie to federal officers.
So there's always been DNA out there, and we've done test after testing. We've gone out to like the Parabon, which is a private company that does all like the genetics, and we've just hit wall after wall after wall. But recently, we found a familia DNA hit. So what that does, it just tells us it came from a certain person. So like the mother or the father or a son or an uncle or however that is, it just hits that like somewhere in this family tree is where the DNA comes from. So with that, we open up the investigation. We go into who could it be within the family. So once we started opening up those doors and looking through the family members and just trying to see Facebook stalking them, criminal histories, just that normal investigation that we do once we start looking into things, we started finding some interesting things. So one of the things that came out to us, is there anything in there that looks
of interest or notable?
When DNA testing is mentioned, Sherry scoots her chair closer to Keith's. She may be feeling uneasy and seeking her husband's support. It appears that she doesn't want to face whatever news the detectives have alone. Sherry is sitting remarkably still as she listens to the detective. She may be experiencing a freeze response, the ceasing of all movement and sound, which happens when the mind perceives an immediate threat. It's expected that she would feel anxious in such a pivotal moment, but her body language is indicating that something is wrong.
So the picture's a little grained out. So
to me, I see a table there that somewhat looks like something you've described to me in the past, and then I see wood paneling. Talking about the room.
Yeah, we noted both of those things back in August 2017. Is when we spoke with you about, and you showed us this picture of the table. Do you remember that, Sherry?
Yeah, I do.
And so when we were trolling through this, Facebook page, we saw just the edge of that table. Denise caught it, in fact.
Oh, cool.
Denise said, "Hey, look at this table." And I was like, "Oh wait, you're right." And it has the wood paneling. So we're like, well, where was that photo taken, right? And so we were trying to figure that out.
So
okay.
So that's led us obviously now to obviously this Facebook page has a person. It's got like people tagged into it, so it has. So Peter has a.
But that's still a valid memory, right? Is that this was the table?
Yeah.
A table like this was the table you were on when you were branded?
And we've been talking about that a lot because so many memories are so faded now.
It's been a long time.
It's been a really long time. So were you able to find like where that house is?
Yes.
And what? Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So if you look at this closet,
It's a little bit different, but it's pretty, excuse my language, it's pretty fucking similar. But it's different.
you said it looks very similar. What's
I mean,
similar?
this is what I'm remembering, that feeling, you know, grabbing it and feeling that feeling. But this part is different. This part is different. That definitely
So you're
doesn't
saying
look
this
the
metal
same.
part, it looks the same as what you remember, but this piece right here,
This part doesn't look the same.
the window. With the wood paneling. Trying to ignore the TV and stuff. I don't think you had a TV with you, right?
Definitely not.
While a considerable amount of time has passed, so the initial trauma might have abated somewhat, it's still unusual that Sherry is laughing here. It is possible that the laughter is an attempt to lighten the mood or memories, or it may also be more of a nervous response, not knowing what information the detectives are about to confront her with.
What am I looking for the window? Do you want to know if it's like the same height?
Well, the type of window, the wall itself, anything from these photos that make you believe that this was where you were being held.
I feel like this wood paneling is too thick, but I mean,
You mean this
there
way?
was wood paneling, but I can't remember something like that being there.
She is
And I-
clever. Look, she almost got way excited, way too excited at the beginning. And now she's noticing. They're showing her a picture of somewhere that everybody knows. And now she's like, it's not exactly right. It's kind of wrong.
I don't remember.
So one of the things that we always noted in the bathroom description is just the weird layout of the bathroom. So do you remember the layout of the bathroom?
Yes. Well,
Let's talk about the description, best description, and then we'll start showing some
but
pictures.
there's door, toilet, sink, tub. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So you walk in the door,
layout
first there's a toilet.
Yes.
On the right
Remember
or
which side?
If I'm.
Shit's a
It's
word
been
in
a
the
while.
world, just in general.
I am. I don't know.
But whatever, you walk in the door, on one left or right, you have a toilet, then,
I want to say. What? I'm sorry.
that's fine,
I want to say toilet on the left.
okay. If we could go back to the closet really quick though, I remember when you were talking about being chained into the closet and trying to figure out a way to get loose. You talked about working on a screw, right?
Uh-huh.
And what happened to that screw when you were done with it?
I dug a hole in the wall and poked it into the wall.
Okay. Because this is an interesting photo as well.
Is this in the closet?
That's in the closet.
No, it was drywall.
It was into the drywall.
It was into drywall, but
By the electric plug, I remember
yeah.
Okay. So maybe not that one.
So we're showing you all of
She's
this
clever.
because ultimately this is the house that you were at. We talked to the people who live there. We found the house. We found who was involved. We talked to who was involved. We talked to family who knows that you were there, and talked to a couple people talked to one guy who did see you during this event.
Here we go.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of truths. There's a lot of things that were said that we have always confirmed, that we've always said. There's a lot of truths, and then there's some unknowns. Like one of the simple ones, like, well, this description of the bathroom is just weird. Like that was like an argument in all of our offices where we were sitting there like this part's weird. But then we find a house with it. Then the all thread through the thing, that's just weird.
Keith appears to be outwardly celebrating their victory, Ecstatic that his wife's captors have finally been caught after so many years, Sherry, on the other hand, seems significantly less thrilled by the news. She remains motionless and fixed on the officer for a few seconds, likely another freeze response. When she comes to, she appears to motion for her husband to calm down. The fact that he felt the need to apologize for reacting appropriately may be another important look into their relationship dynamic. It alludes to the idea that he isn't confident in the validity of his feelings, and neither of them are considering the trauma and pain he also went through when she disappeared.
So I think with that being said, some choices and some decisions ultimately changed the original path of what happened. So we'd like to talk to you more about those things, and we can do it with Keith here.
Here we
or
go.
Ask Keith to lead to whatever you're comfortable with, so we can break down some of the problems. If you want Keith here, all we want is to have the truth. All we want is to be able to tell the truth. That's all we've ever wanted from day one. We talked with you for hours. We've been there. We've done all these different things, waiting for something, waiting for it to break, waiting for us to leak something to hear. Because the DNA came back, like I said, to a specific person. That specific person told us very specific things. His family then told us specific things.
The tension is so thick, you could cut it. What must Sherry be feeling right now? Fear, desperation, despair. Certainly, Keith's stomach is in knots as he registers that his wife had actually been with a man during the time she was gone. Had Sherry run away with another guy? Had someone forced themselves on his wife? Was this another repressed memory that she'd forgotten?
Oh my God, I feel so... Man, I wish I could give her husband a hug. This poor guy.
Dimension. Or maybe Keith always knew. His nonverbal communication over the course of the at-home interview communicated that something was amiss. Perhaps he'd had an inkling early on that the circumstances were suspicious. Notice also that she's leaning towards Keith here to get support and encouragement. This nonverbal language is very different from the initial interviews. Keith presumably knows his wife better than most, and likely could tell where her story became fishy.
So we can step out of the room, let you guys talk, because I don't know what information I'm going to do, if it's life-changing news, or if it's, oh yeah, everything's fine. I just don't know what it is. We'll be right back.
The truth is fast approaching, and while Keith is ready for answers, Sherry makes one last desperate effort to wiggle her way out of the situation.
Yes, this guy, I want to give him a hug so bad. I hope his next wife is a brunette.
I don't want them to find her. I don't want her to be arrested. I don't want to press charges on her. I don't want to find her.
Listen to me right now, then.
I don't know. I don't want them to find her. You're not listening to
Tell
me.
me why.
Because she saved my life.
But tell me, honey, there's obviously something wrong. There's obviously something wrong. This is being really bad if you can't tell me.
Look at how you're being right now. I have to with you.
No, I'm not being.
I don't want them to find her. I don't want to press charges, and I don't want to go down that road.
But you tell her?
I don't want to go down that road. I don't want
Tell me
to
why.
press her. Because she saved my life, and she's the reason why I get to hold my children every single day.
So you don't press charges. You still need to find out who it is. You're not making sense.
No,
To the point where I'm getting
I
scared.
want to hug him.
Yeah. Well, I can talk to him and tell him what you're thinking. Do you want me to know or not?
Hopefully you've had a chance to chat briefly.
The fears later, maybe. But I'd rather you answer the question.
I don't know. I don't know.
You're in the driver's seat right now.
I think it's easier to control things once you know what the information is.
We're just still at the talking stage. We're at the control stage.
You seem scared, Sherry.
No, I'm not scared.
What is it?
I don't want you to find her.
We're not going to find her.
She's the reason why I get to see my children every day.
I agree, but we're not going to find her. We can skip to the rock into the water and rub up the pond if we want to now. This is the last time if you want to do this alone or with Keith. Keith's been through this also on a different level. I'm ready to move on and throw the dart and throw the rock and see what happens to the water. Look, Sherry, look at me. What do you want?
I don't want her to get in trouble.
She's not going to get in trouble. The DNA came back to James Reyes.
The DNA that was on you belongs to James Reyes.
The picture, and can I get the picture? The picture of the table is James Reyes' little brother. He died recently. We talked to him. He's been on a polygraph. We talked to everybody around him. We have the rental agreements, phone rental, the car rental agreements. We have everything that says that he said he told the truth.
That's James' brother, deceased Nick.
So everything, you've told us so many truths in this situation. The reason why you can describe the rooms is because you stayed in the room in the dark for hours, for days on end. The reason why you lost so much weight is because you stopped eating. The reason why you got a rash on your arm is because you cleaned his house. The reason why the brand is because he went to the store, bought the branding tools, and branded you. The reason why your nose was broke is because of a hockey stick. I know all of those things, and I know I know all of that because he passed a polygraph test. That said, it's not an abduction. She asked me to come and get her.
No.
I rented a car.
No.
Drove up and picked her up. He passed the polygraph test, Sherry.
Because polygraphs rely heavily on the skill of the administrator, they're not always.
And that's what you call a mic drop moment, folks. Oh, man. And did you see her husband the second that cop said that? He leaned back. He said, what? Damn. There it is. Yeah. They say it, and he
We talked to everybody around him.
like, what?
We have the rental agreements, phone rental, the car rental agreements. We have everything that says that he said he told the truth.
That's James' brother, deceased Nick.
So everything, you've told us so many truths in this situation. The reason why you can describe the rooms is because you stayed in the room in the dark for hours, for days on end. The reason why you lost so much weight is because you stopped eating. The reason why you got a rash on your arm is because you cleaned his house. The reason why the brand is because he went to the store, bought the branding tools, and branded you. The reason why your nose was broke is because of a hockey stick. I know all of those things, and I know I know all of that because he passed a polygraph test. That said, it's not an abduction. She asked me to come and get her.
No.
I rented a car.
That husband was like, whoa. That's crazy. That's crazy. Man, that's wild, isn't it? That is crazy. What do you think about that, Lil Nolly? What do you guys think? What does Chat think about this crazy lady? What would you do if you were the husband? What would you do if you were her husband?
I drove up and picked her up. He passed the polygraph test, Sherry.
Because polygraphs rely heavily on the skill of the administrator, they're not always accurate at detecting whether or not someone is telling the truth. The detectives know this, but are taking a very direct approach to confronting Sherry with all the evidence they have that contradicts her story. and are using the polygraph results to try to encourage her to finally drop the charade. Despite her verbal refusals, her body language shows that she knows the game is over. She completely covers her face and bends forward, closing herself off from the detectives. Meanwhile, Keith is leaning away from her with his arms crossed, likely experiencing an unfathomable slew of emotions.
What's up?
We were friends.
Mhm.
There's no way.
And he came and got you because you asked him.
No.
When was the last time you had contact with James?
His brother died.
Brother died in 2017. Is that right?
Oh, sorry.
I don't remember.
Was it before or after the abduction? Before.
When was the last time you saw James?
But you know what? The one thing they have going for them, they didn't have sex. She didn't have sex with the dude on her 22-day sabbatical.
Southern California?
So the last person-to-person contact you had with him was back in 2006? When you were living in Southern California?
I don't know.
So was it prior to your marriage?
It's him. There is no way it's him.
But we all know by now that this isn't true. She remembers everything. She's simply reluctant to admit in front of her husband that she was in communication with her ex-boyfriend, even following the incident. However, she lost the chance to get Keith out of the room and probably feels that the best chance she has at saving her marriage is to continue to lie.
He took us to the stores where he bought the chain. We talked to the friend who rented the car. The car that he rented drove over 900 miles in a day on the drop-off point. You did go in a dark room. That's true. You did lay in the back seat of the car. That's true. You did lose weight. You were branded. Your hair was cut. You did have bruises all over. But how those bruises got there are because you did it and James did something. The reason why your nose got broke is because you held the hockey stick to your face and he forced it into your nose. The reason why the brand is in a straight line is because he did it. He described exactly where it was. He told us exactly how he did it, where he did it, how he did it. Only you and I and maybe 5 other people know where the brand was. He told me immediately. Robert told friends and family you were there. His mom knew that you were there because, of course, it went news and everybody knew you guys dated. Everybody knew you guys had a relationship. So when it happened, of course, family reached out to him and he told him, yeah, she was here. But it said it hurt her. I didn't hurt her.
It's notable that Sherry did tell many truths during the prior interviews. But since law enforcement didn't ask any hard questions or even doubt her answers, she was able to lie by omission and give the appearance of being truthful.
James' DNA was confirmed on your clothing. The two of you haven't seen each other in over a decade. If you told me that you haven't been in his room, you haven't had contact with him in over 10 years. However,
you described his bedroom to a T.
And the DNA on you was still a vibrant piece of DNA. 10-year-old DNA dies. The DNA that was there specifically was non-seminal fluid, was seminal fractions. You got that from his house somewhere. So whether it was the bed that you were sleeping on, whether it was the couch, whether it was anywhere in there.
Okay. So
when somebody would come to the
it wasn't because they had sex. So they did not have sex. Well, see, she's good for that.
door and be around the property, you'd call James. James would call Robert, because those 2 doors down, Robert would run people off the property. Robert told me all of that.
Keith's gaze is fixed on the door, silently communicating that he wants to leave the room. His leg is shaking in an attempt to relieve nervous energy, while Sherry's feet are turned towards Keith, indicating that she wants to connect with him. Keith's foot that is on the ground is turned towards the door, showing that he would like to leave the room. He's clearly uncomfortable, as demonstrated by the grooming behaviors he's exhibited throughout this segment of the interview, like cleaning his nails and fixing a shirt. Surely any husband would be confused, angry, and embarrassed if they were sitting in Keith's chair.
There's
wanna
so many
hug him
truths
so
that were
bad.
part of your story that it's hard to decipher the lies until we put it all together. Until he says, "Hey, how did you pick her up?" "I opened up the passenger side seat. I opened the door. You jumped in the back seat." Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that?" "I don't know. It was weird." So are you calling James a liar? Are we not believing James what he told me?
No.
I know you're scared.
Cannot believe that it is James.
I can't believe James told us the truth. You called James to pick you up. You mailed him a letter with your address. You used a burner phone to call another burner phone for James to come and get you.
You're saying since you're married, you haven't called James?
No, I haven't called James.
Because phone records show that you do. You did. The phones don't lie. The DNA doesn't lie, Sherry.
His polygraph doesn't lie.
So you can go a couple different directions now.
His story.
I've already told you lying to me is a crime. So you walk out the store telling lies, and that's a crime.
I think we need my lawyer. This isn't making any sense.
That's not making sense, Sherry. The parts that
That
don't make
it's James.
No, the parts that don't make sense are that you're accusing two females who abducted you when it was James. The part that you were branded, James did it. He told me he did.
No.
Who would sit there and
No.
say,
No.
"I branded Sherry on her right shoulder blade"? Who does that?
Sherry clearly doesn't understand the importance of the officer's warning against lying. In the face of a federal agent, the consequence for being dishonest increases dramatically. Title 18 U.S.C. Section 1001 states that to knowingly and willingly make a materially false or fraudulent statement to a federal agent is a felony, punishable by up to 5 years in jail. Even a basic denial of wrongdoing, commonly known as an exculpatory no, is unlawful. The only safe alternative for a suspect would be to request an attorney and say nothing more. Sherry eventually has this realization and tries to align herself with Keith by saying, "We need my lawyer." But he doesn't bother responding and instead turns his head away from her, a clear indication that for him, there is no we. Keith motions to one of the detectives, seemingly asking for permission to leave the room. He's heard enough. The implications of physically separating himself from Sherry are significant, as if to say that he no longer has anything to do with this. With her protector gone, Sherry's on her own now.
You see the table I can stand.
Keith's gonna wait out there, Sherry. Were there issues between you and Keith? Is that why you needed to leave? I mean, we read your text message. We're already aware of some issues, but enlighten us if that's the case. If there was a valid reason for you to leave, let me know what that was.
My husband.
So, were you in an abusive relationship with him? Have you told other people in your life that Keith has abused you in the past when that wasn't true?
We just went through their history. Of course, that Dandy's not abusive. He may be a dick, though. Most metros are.
Or there was an incident at a party that you got hurt playing, like, I don't know, Wii or Pictionary or something, and then you told other friends that Keith hurt you. When there was witnesses at the party that said that you got hurt during a party. And you go tell James that you were being hurt, you were being abused, and you couldn't come forward because Keith has friends in law enforcement. If all of is that true? Has Keith ever been abused?
All this for some strange. Look, if you need to skip out for a day or two, skip out for a day or two. You don't need to do all of this.
You said towards you.
We're not talking about my husband.
Sherry's answer here is evasive. Although this can be a sign of deception, it's also common for victims of abuse to protect and love their abuser. However, considering how much trouble Sherry is in, if she were abused, it would make more sense for her to report that now. Perhaps Sherry still hasn't fully registered the severity of the consequences she's facing. Or she may think she can still cry her way out of trouble with the police and her husband, so she's refraining from throwing him under the bus. If she gave him up, that would surely ruin any chances of her saving her marriage. Then there's the obvious possibility that she was lying about the abuse all along, something she's proven to be very skilled at. It's important to note that Keith's story of the Wii remote was corroborated. Thus, Sherry has just essentially been caught making at least one false report of abuse on her husband.
Oh my God.
Who knows what
Just
other tall
shut up.
tales she has floating around.
Lessons on
Keith
how
ever
to
been
walk
abusive toward
yourself
you?
to jail.
We're not talking about my husband. I love my husband.
No, you don't.
So why leave? Is James lying to us?
I want to leave my husband. I want to be with my children. I would never leave my children.
But you didn't leave them permanently. You came back to them. Ultimately,
No.
You left them every day at daycare, so it's not like, hey. And James talked about that decision when you were driving down, how hard that was. You left at 10 o'clock knowing that Keith was going to get home late, knowing you were going to leave the kids at daycare, and how much that tore you up on the drive down. You told us that.
like when you were in Eureka, you give him a call. You just start chatting with him. Told him some of your problems. And when did it turn from just chatting to his plan to get away?
No. No. No.
You were getting all of Donovan Mitski the night before.
Why did I do that?
We're trying to understand why you did that too.
We're trying to understand all of it.
I don't know how this is happening because I was doing that.
Doing
It's
what?
such an awful choice. Talking to other guys that has got me here.
Why did you ask James to come get you? You asked Donovan the night before to come meet up with you. Everything happened at once. You were asking him
That's
to.
a stupid thing to do.
Why did you ask him to come pick you up? Was that an I don't know? What's that?
Can't be James.
It is James.
He understood that the DNA didn't lie. So he came clean. Now it's your chance to do the same.
Wow.
And if you don't, you're going to be shaking your head later and say, I should have told him what happened.
Talk to me like that.
How?
Like what?
This comment proves that Sherry is still adamant on taking the victim stance. She's now insinuating that the detectives are doing something to her, rather than acknowledging that she'd wronged them and everyone else involved. She's likely used to being able to manipulate others into treating her kindly. But these officers have dealt with Sherry's tears for 4 years now. They're not going to get her anywhere this time.
Once you had to have known that this was going to come at some point.
Just shut up.
My fault.
What's that?
This is all my fault. I was talking to so many guys.
Well, we know
Such a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, but then how did we get to Costa Rica, or sorry, Costa Mesa? Did James pick you up? You told me earlier that a girl pointed a gun at you. Is that detail, which one's true? It's only one. Only one of those are true, Sherry.
Someone asked for this.
No, nobody asked for this. Sherry, I believe you. Nobody asked for this. Nobody asked for ABC News to park out in your driveway.
There was no way you could have predicted that this was going to blow up and to be as big as it was.
Who picked you up? Was it James, or was it a female that pointed a gun at you? Can you please answer that? You're shaking your head no.
I will not get. I'm not talking to you about that. I'm not going to get anybody in trouble. I've told you before. I do not want anyone to get in trouble.
Well, you're going to get yourself in trouble at this point. That's where we're at. So either James.
I didn't do anything wrong.
I know you didn't do anything wrong. Right now, you're not telling the truth, which is doing something wrong. That's where we're at. So, but the one.
You're saying that it's James.
No, we're saying James's DNA was on you. We know you were in that room at his house.
Then who
So the
is the
question is-
woman Then if I was the woman.
Well,
Okay. That's why we're asking you. It
Did the
wasn't
woman put a pointed gun at you and put you in the car, yes or no? Is that where we're at?
What the fuck? Man,
Don't
shut up.
remember.
Stop talking.
You don't remember if a female pointed a gun at you and
I
put you in
don't
the
even
car?
like her,
Is that what
but I
you're saying,
wanted
Sherry?
to
I've always told you I don't remember getting in the car. I've always
Please stop talking, lady.
told you I don't remember getting in the car.
But did a female point a gun at you, yes or no?
I know you know who she
Why?
is. I am not
We're on the
saying
wrong-
it. I don't want her to get in trouble.
She's not
I know
getting in trouble.
you know who she is.
You're getting in trouble.
I am not. I didn't do anything.
But right now, answer this one question.
Why
Did a
the
female point a gun at you, yes or no?
I am done speaking to you until I talk to a lawyer. I will not arrest her. I am with my children because of her.
I'm disappointed, Sherry.
I don't understand. There is no way that Jesse loves me.
You did love me. I agree.
This is a classic example of an exculpatory no statement, which isn't protected under the Fifth Amendment. As the situation stands, Sherry could possibly be facing time for her lack of cooperation.
Sherry, if you want to talk to your attorney, that's fine. We can wrap this up. If you want to keep talking to us, that's a separate story, but you said you wanted to talk to your
Hold
attorney,
on, baby.
so I guess from the beginning, you're free to go and you can go. I would ask you one more question, just for your own welfare. Do you feel like harming yourself?
Welfare.
Do you feel like harming yourself?
No, I just hug my children and go home.
Okay.
Seeing as Sherry has now clearly requested an attorney, detectives wrap up their conversation with her, then briefly touch base with Keith separately.
Alright. I'm the idiot husband that stayed around the whole time.
Some of the details, some of the stuff don't know.
To me, I mean, from my side, I feel like my whole world's gonna flip upside down again. Why is that? Why am I always getting held out of things? Like, why can't you just hit me with it?
I did, I told you.
I know, yeah.
Because this happened Monday.
No, you're saying you can't tell me all this stuff.
It's still an ongoing investigation, so.
From my side, but now you're telling me, okay, you guys can go home now. Well, do you think I want her anywhere around my kids or around me at all at this point?
And again, we've talked a lot. I don't know what the next stages of this are. That's why.
It's not
that's
us
why
together, I tell you that one.
Whatever those decisions are, I don't know.
But we can all agree that she's not over there, then obviously if somebody can do something like that to their body and try to trick everybody that they're probably not fit to.
It was 4 years ago.
Keith has a valid point here, given this was 4 years prior.
Huh. That poor man, I want to hug him so bad. He's like, I'm the idiot that stuck around. Poor guy.
Now, but for a person to engage in severe self-harm and bodily injury, there is typically a serious mental health crisis going on. Sherry was likely desperate when she asked James to assist her in harming herself. But the question still remains, why was Sherry so desperate to disappear that she faked a kidnapping? Unfortunately for Sherry, the investigators were being honest with her about every piece of evidence they had. They'd even traveled over 8 hours to speak with James personally. At the start of the interview, James attempted to lie to the detectives. He told them that he hadn't seen Sherry and didn't know anything about her disappearance. However, after being presented with the DNA evidence and the possibility of it being used against him, he came clean.
So what did she have planned out?
She was trying to get away from her husband, and I don't know their deal. But that was just a friend calling me, and I'm like, well,
But your understanding was that that's what she was saying, is she was
That's what
wanting
I'm
to get away
going
from him.
Yeah.
She was having a hard time.
What I know very little about them. I knew she got married when she got married.
So then what happened next?
That was it. I went and got her.
In what car?
A rental car.
Okay.
I mean, just my car is not.
Do you know what kind of rental?
I'm not, honestly, I can't even remember what it was. It was an SUV of some type. But I just don't remember what brand it was. It was just
company?
Cheapest rental I could get.
Do you remember the color?
It could be white or silver gray. I can't really remember, but I mean, I just
light color.
It was a lighter color car.
And then what happened?
Just picked her up. Obviously it was she what she wanted. me to do, like how she wanted me to pick her up. You know, I mean, I wasn't anything crazy. I just stopped the car. Was there a road? Yeah. Did I go up any roads? No. To this day, I don't know where she lives in Reading. I know she's in Reading. She didn't give me any.
Did you even get out of the car?
No.
So you unlock the door, she gets in.
Yeah.
Front seat, back seat?
Back seat.
Back seat. Then what happened?
Just the drive.
Did
Grab
she stay in
coffee.
the back the whole time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you guys
She'd
talk
lay
about?
down, just, you know, take a nap. I don't know.
So during that 22 days, she has some significant injuries.
Yeah.
So there's a brand on her.
Yeah.
There's significant bruising. There's like, how did all that stuff come
I mean,
about?
she did a lot of that while she was here. I mean, she just hit herself with something, created a bruise or something.
Yeah.
And I helped her. I mean, I didn't punch her or anything. I didn't even put hands on her or anything.
How'd you help her?
She just was just like,
What James reveals next is completely twisted.
Banked a puck off my leg, so I shot a puck off her leg lightly.
To create a bruise.
Yeah. I mean,
The idea of having hockey pucks intentionally shot at you for the specific purpose of causing visible bruises is sickening, to say the least.
What about the big one on her arm?
that was probably, that would have been her. I mean, there's not too many people say come up and hurt me, right? I played hockey. When I fight, when that's like a thing, is no one's asking you, you do it. But I'm not physical ever with women. I mean, it just, I just did what she hurt herself for some stuff here. You know, I was gone all day, 8-10 hours. And then some stuff I helped her with.
What about the burns?
That was us, you know.
How did that happen?
Where's the tool?
Huh? Oh, that is just trash. It wasn't mine. It was just we bought it. It was like a,
Where'd you buy it from?
what do you call it? A wood burning tool.
How did was she standing, laying down?
Just sitting. Like, I mean, it's not, how do you brand somebody like that's asking you to do it? You know, I'm like, I don't even know.
So she's sitting like that.
If you were sitting here, you know, I was sitting on the ground too. You'd just be sitting in front of me.
The way you did it there, it seemed like you did it quickly. Like,
Well, you can't hold that. I mean, you can't cattle brand too hard. It's so fine, it'll burn through the. It was so hot, it was red.
You also said at one point that she had a phone that she was looking up stuff. Do you know what that is, or?
It was. She had a phone.
Okay.
What she had with her was what she had with her.
Okay, but she brought a phone with her. It came down here.
Yeah, I think it was a prepaid one, or I mean, I'm not really sure what phone she had. I know she left a phone.
Anything else? What about the window? Anything to deal with the window? Did she do anything with the window?
The window?
Yeah.
Like on this window here in the room. I'm sorry. I was like, anyway. It was just there's just boards over it, so she couldn't see. There was no light coming in. She wanted to be dark.
Who put the boards up?
I did. I just screwed them in there for her.
Where'd you get the wood from?
I'd actually had it. It's from Home Depot, but I had it because I built a workbench, and it was just plywood. It was just 3 sheets of particle board or pressed board.
On the way up, what rental car was it? What kind of car was it?
It's like a Challenger.
And that was a light Challenger.
It was black or gray, dark blue maybe even. No, it wasn't blue. It was dark gray or black.
Dark, like Dodge Challenger.
Yeah, silver gray.
And then you'd be gone most of the day, and you'd come back. You'd see different injuries on her.
Not always. I mean, it was that stuff was more towards her getting ready to go.
Okay.
You know,
how long of that frame is there?
A day or two. I mean, we weren't doing that every day for 22 days. She was here. As she was planning up to going, you know, she was going to stay longer. Was her plan. I don't know how long, but she couldn't be away from her kids anymore.
Let me back up a little bit. One of the injuries she had was a pretty deep burn on her forearm.
That one, I don't know. That might have been self-inflicted.
What about her hair? What happened with her hair?
She chopped that.
What time frame?
Pretty early. I mean, within the first few days, couple days. So I wasn't here.
Anything else that we can think of at this point? Besides,
no, I was trying to rack though. I was thinking about that trail. I know how I didn't have the phone. I had MRSA and I was in Hoag Hospital.
When?
Prior to all this stuff, I had MRSA in my leg and I was in there for 8 or 9 days. Level 4 ICU for blood infection in my bloodstream.
Okay.
And They were giving me 50-50 to cut my knee here. All that muscle rotted out. My foot was swollen, my toe. They had to cut that out in there. But she sent me a care package and it had the directions in it because I couldn't remember how I got that road if my phone was off, and I don't think I had.
Sherry did?
Yeah.
Perhaps the most perplexing aspect of Sherry's stay with James was the fact that multiple witnesses were aware of her presence, yet none came forward, despite the widespread media coverage devoted to Sherry's disappearance. Police were rightfully outraged with Sherry for concocting the lie that wasted years' worth of resources, manpower, and time, not just for them, but for the entire Shasta County community who gave their days to search for her. It also caused law enforcement to infiltrate the lives of dozens of innocent people for no reason.
Yeah.
The worst part is that from the day she was found on the highway to the day she was caught, Sherry never showed remorse for all the lives she upended with her antics. But that wouldn't stop the consequences from eventually catching up with her when she least expected it. Her retribution would come 2 years after her ruse was discovered. On March 3, 2022, while Sherry attended her children's piano lessons, a man entered the building and explained to Sherry that her vehicle had been hit in the parking lot. Of course, the claim wasn't true, and the man wasn't just any man. He was an FBI agent. As Sherry walked outside to inspect her vehicle, another agent was waiting to arrest her. She screamed no and attempted to flee, throwing her cell phone approximately 20 feet from her location. They were able to handcuff and detain her despite the struggle. Sherry left the school's parking lot in a police vehicle and was taken to the county jail where she was booked for making false statements to law enforcement and 34 counts of mail fraud. A month later, on April 18th, Sherry pleaded guilty to 1 count of mail fraud and to providing false information. In ironic contrast to Keith's claim in his first interview, he filed for divorce 2 days after she submitted her guilty plea.
I bet.
He also filed for sole custody of their 2 kids. According to him, he was apprehensive of his wife's mental health and concerned for their children's well-being after the trauma they'd endured. Since then, Keith has moved away from Redding and has focused his attention on making sure their kids lead stable and healthy lives. During her sentencing hearing, her defense team pushed for her to receive a penalty of a month in prison, followed by 7.
Okay. So, I guess, oh yeah, Val Kilmer did die. Yeah, that's really sad. I never saw a Tombstone, but Willow is my favorite movie. And I will watch Willow in remembrance of Val Kilmer. And also Top Gun. Not Top Gun 2. Just regular Top Gun. Because Top Gun 2, no. I just want regular Top Gun. And Willow. I'm going to watch those 2. It'll be so great. I want to tell everyone thank you for watching. Yes.
Months of house arrest.
Got a month in prison and 7 months of house arrest for all that bullshit. And she got that $30,000, remember? Look, anyway. I want to tell everyone thank you for watching. I want to tell you like and subscribe. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, I do God Said What live, which is awesome. We are on Exodus. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll be doing Getting High on live stream, or Getting High on True Crime live stream tomorrow about 9:15. Because at 9 o'clock, we got to call our dad and take our medicine and feed the raccoons. And then get high on true crime. So I want to thank y'all for watching. I want to tell you, press like and subscribe. We're going to finish this out and then go.
The prosecution argued that she deserved a harsher sentence of 8 months in prison and 3 years of supervised release. But the presiding judge had another idea. He took into consideration the officers who relentlessly looked for her, as well as everyone else who believed and invested in Sherry. On September 19th, 2022, Sherry Papini was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Such a lengthy sentence would also serve to deter copycats who might consider attempting the same attention-seeking behavior. She was also instructed to pay $309,902 in restitution, which includes the $30,000 she'd received from the Victim Compensation Fund, the $128,000 worth of disability money she was given following her return, and $150,000 as reimbursement for law enforcement's efforts to find her and her imaginary kidnappers. 6 years after the day this all started, Sherry was finally held accountable for her fraudulence. Before she was taken away, Sherry, in tears, apologized to everyone she'd impacted and stated that she was ready to take full responsibility by peacefully accepting her sentence. Even her defense attorney, who was later interviewed outside the courthouse, would admit that it was a fair sentence, though it obviously wasn't what they were hoping for. No one knows exactly why Sherry left. According to her attorney, he doesn't think she knows either. Still, it's entirely possible that given the mental health care that she needs, we might be able to finally get an answer from her following her release in early 2024. Until then, Sherry is incarcerated at Federal Correctional Institution Victorville in San Bernardino.
That's how you can tell somebody liked her. She went to federal prison. She went to Camp Cupcake. Look, if you're ever going to commit a crime, commit a federal one. Because their prisons are way better. State prison's not that bad. County prison, county jail, it's not really prison, it's jail. It's shit. If you're going to commit a crime, do federal. Federal prison is way better. So, thank you guys for watching. Press like and subscribe. I love you so much. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we'll be doing God Said What live. And then we will do Get High on True Crime at about 9:15 tomorrow. So thank y'all for watching. I love you so much. Bye.